Great, great. Well, hats off to Mary and her team. They're all back there and outside. Once again, a wonderful job, Mary. Thank you for everything. That's a hand for you. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Pat O'Leary. I'm here from the U.S. I've been a Nicholas Hall network partner for a couple of years now, but I've known Nicholas and the team going on 15 years. I thought yesterday's sessions were incredible, really incredible. I learned a lot, but I also thought that Jennifer Cooper, if she's still here, Jennifer said that we should state our biases, and I thought that that might be something that I should do as I introduce myself. And through all those presentations yesterday, I realized that I am an aging, balding, fattening, probably pre-diabetic, probably pre-metabolically challenged, and I'm an American on a day when my president decided, while I was in Europe, to announce a trade war. So that's my biases today. So if you want to ask any questions, I'll see you out in the hall. Just please, if there's any tomatoes or shoes, please don't throw them while I'm up here. For a large strategic research organization where he worked on M&A, analytics, category construction, and otherwise. He's an expert in the consumer. He's got a background in beauty and personal care. He is a terrific guy. He left Nicholas Hall for a little while and came back in 2021, where he's now a consultant and a specialist on consumer. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. He's an avid outdoorist, loves to be out swimming, loves to go on hikes. So we're going to go on a walk with him, with the consumers. We're going to understand the queen consumer and how to make our brands more attractive to the end user. So everybody, please welcome Nicholas McAuliffe.
Thanks, Pat, for the introduction. Hope everyone is feeling well this morning, and good morning. Yes, Pat mentioned I will be talking about the queen consumer. Essentially, I'll be focusing on how to make our brands more attractive to the end user, and specifically, given the current economic climate, we need more emphasis on the consumer. So before I delve deeper into the actual consumer stuff, I will actually go back the last 5 years to see where we are now relative to the pandemic time. So very briefly, during the pandemic, there was a reinforced focus on prevention. People wanted to try to avoid as much as I can getting COVID-19. So there was a huge focus on immunity with particular positive impact on VMS. Following the pandemic, the years after that, there was a return to treatment. Obviously, during the COVID pandemic, there was an absence of cough and cold season, fewer people were eating out, so cough and cold and GIs took a bit of a hit, but they came back roaring after that. And post-pandemic, roughly from 2024 till where we are now, there was like more of a hybrid approach. So consumers were more focusing on prevention as well as treatment as well, manifested through the use of self-diagnostics, but also renewed interest on prevention, immunity, and also focus on health markers, key health markers such as sleep and gut health. But again, the current climate is not so good at the moment. There's a protracted cost of living crisis. And essentially, how do we actually make our brands attractive to the end user, given this scenario? Well, we're lucky in the industry that at least health tends to stay on top of the priority list for many consumers. If they have to tighten their pockets, they will first cut down eating out, for example, and other consumables, but not necessarily health, which obviously benefits us and can benefit also discretionary areas like VMS and probiotics. But I think it's also crucial that increasingly we need to focus these products as core to leading healthy lives. We need also to look at under-the-radar segments a bit more in depth, perhaps look at food intolerance. These are issues that impact people in their daily lives. So look at food intolerance, for example, eye health. We talk a lot about blue light, too much of screen time, probably most of us in here, and how it impacts sleep. So I think these are really areas that we need an extra emphasis on. And also we need to produce products which have a tangible health outcome that warrant a purchase, but more importantly, a repeat purchase. We want our consumers to keep buying a product. And we believe that these brands that fulfill such claims will likely defy the current economic gloom that we're going through. And naturally, it's important, obviously, that we keep marketing activity intact, communicating what the brand stands for in terms of claims and benefits to make sure that the message is heard. Yeah, and here I refer to a study conducted by Nielsen last year. It basically is a research on US households, asking them of the ailments that they had in the past 6 months, in the preceding 6 months. And I think the message here, when you look at this list here, is that definitely many of them can be alleviated with the use of supplements. So have joint pain, eye health, poor sleep, as well as menopause. But also we have an opportunity for creating more hero products. And by hero, we mean products that are of multi-benefit. So when a consumer takes a sleep product, they will also experience improved vision, for example. And that's something that we need to communicate more directly to the consumer. And also keep in mind products which are a bit more targeted. We will talk about senior citizens a bit later on. People which have, for example, diabetes or high blood pressure. So we need to have products that are more targeted to these people. So here I have a look at the Here I have a look at some of the key subcategories. This is based on data which we published internally last week on DB6. So it's very fresh data. It shows the fastest growing subcategories in consumer healthcare, 2024 over 2023. Here we can see that there's been an increasing shift towards more prevention again, as well as including products which are for both prevention or treatment. As you can see on the left-hand side, huge growth for oral hydration treatments. That's coming on the back of moving on from the traditional use of these products to people who are engaged in physical activity and recognize the importance of replacing electrolytes, for example. But also we see a huge growth for key areas which are very preventative-based, including magnesium, for example, 9%, vitamin B, vitamin D, menopause, are all around the 7% mark. So the message here is that these categories are actually coming back and fueling growth in the industry. Yeah, and these trends are manifested in new product development that we've been seeing. So this data here is based on our own internal MPD tracker, which covers the major 21 consumer healthcare markets. These charts focus on Europe and North America. And as you can see on the charts, the usual suspects, trending categories, which has seen lots of activity, including sleep aids, for example, probiotics, including pre- and postbiotics, immunity, acne, cognitive health, joint health, menopause, and so on and so forth. One point to keep in mind here also is that this has seen lots of activity, as you can see on the charts. So naturally, we can expect some saturation over the coming years, which only tells us that innovation must be increasingly more selective and targeted. And here, I'll focus more now on what the actual presentation is about, consumer trends, about the consumer. There are so many consumer trends that are reshaping the consumer healthcare markets. But here we focus particularly on 3 main pillars, which we think will drive major growth in the industry over the next decade and 2. All aspects which I think we've discussed very widely yesterday already. So the first one is the rising obesity rate, alongside the quest for managing our weight, aging societies and extending those quality years, so people want to live more years in health, which creates an opportunity for our industry for products that are targeted more for older bodies. And the third one is gender-based health needs with specific focus on women. Again, I think it's something which we covered extensively yesterday. But what do these pillars have in common? I think most of them can be addressable via consumer healthcare to a certain extent. And here I underline 3 words: holistically, directly, and indirectly, with some examples below. So to take one of them, for example, sleep. Yes, sleep provides obviously the core benefit, which is helping us to sleep better. But also we need to keep in mind the indirect benefits, such as being conducive to losing weight, so providing that mental clarity the following morning. So here we can see that these are benefits that we really need to try and communicate better to the consumer. They will have to know the direct impact, but also indirect, and how it benefits holistically the health and our health and well-being. So from those three consumer pillars, I will take you briefly through each one of them in a bit more detail, starting with weight management. So quoting a study which Nicholas Hall yesterday referred to already, it's a study by Lancet called The Global Burden of Disease, covers 200 countries, only published last month. The grim prediction is that 60% of adults around the world will likely be overweight or obese in 25 years' time, 2050. That comes from 1 billion men and 1.1 billion women, aged 25 plus, which are already overweight in 2021 or obese. It's already double 1990 numbers. Assuming that these rates persist, it will increase dramatically. 57% of men, 60% of women, fueled by the major markets, China, India, the US, and also sub-Saharan Africa by virtue of having one of the fastest population growths in the world. Naturally, I think our industry has a role in helping to try to avert this crisis. As you are well aware, obesity has a host of impact on our health, ranging from diabetes, cardiovascular, stress on our joints and mobility, and also mental health as well as quality of life. And I think that partly comes from the fact that I think there's still very low awareness and education between diet and long-term health. I mentioned here UPFs, which refers to ultra-processed foods. In the UK, where I live, there's been quite a bit of coverage on UPFs, for example, and their potential health impact on our health, and greater focus on trying to eat more whole foods, for example. And this quest to improve and reduce our waistline has saw soaring demand for GLP-1s. Yes, they're beneficial because they help to reduce the incidence of heart disease in the long term, but also they're not a quick fix, we believe. As you know, they have their side effects. They require discipline by the patient to exercise and eat a bit more healthily, and also manage their lives in a better way, like stress management, for example, or being able to switch off to sleep better. They're also expensive. Wegovy, for example, is out of reach to most Americans, especially low-income consumers where obesity is rife. And naturally here, we perhaps need to see how we convince the insurers and the government to cover this cost to have a wider benefit. And also other issues as well. So some research said that whilst it helps users to lose 10% of weight, many of them who stop this treatment will end up regaining that weight. So obviously there's issues there. And here I focus on our role in actually supporting the users with their long-term journey in weight loss. We need to embrace a holistic approach, supporting users with lifestyle changes, providing products which are kind of measurable in results, tangible results, and also helping the consumer to comply via creative marketing that generally involves education and raising awareness. Companies that want to enter this category, I think that they require the long-term view, focusing on their needs, such as helping them to recover those lost nutrients, the loss of lean muscle, and other side effects, such as diarrhea and constipation. I think importantly as well, weight loss should not just be a core product, but also communicating an extended benefit as part of another product. So I've mentioned already sleep. If you're sleep deprived, it will increase appetite, for example, and weaken the metabolism. So I think when we position a product for sleep, we need to think about the formulation, for example, to help the consumer also with losing weight, for example, or the messaging even. Focus on probiotics. Here I mention a few examples, the ones with the images. Broadly, these products here, probiotics, they're example of recent new product developments, which broadly they're positioned for gut health, metabolism, helping to balance the blood sugar, as well as reducing cravings. And also magnesium, for example, and the extended benefit of support with regulating blood sugar. And also we're seeing the digital space increasing in this area. Noom, which is a popular app helping users with weight loss, launched this feature called NUM GLP-1 Companion with Muscle Defense Program, which essentially it helps the user to measure the muscle they're losing, and at the same time helping them to, or recommending them to increase their protein intake and incorporate resistance training into their routine. Next of the consumer pillar, we focus on the aging consumer. This will be an age group which will increase dramatically over the future. There are also a group of consumers, group of people that are increasingly seek to be self-reliant and also independent into their older years. Quoting some UN data here, the current 50 to 64 age group is quite significant. So we can only see that in 10 years' time, 20 years' time, the number of senior citizens will increase quite dramatically. They also lead increasingly urban lifestyles with all the negative impacts, exposure to pollution, more convenience diets, too many fast food outlets out there, and naturally, healthcare systems are already under strain as well. Briefly here, I quote some evidence from the WHO, which essentially links air pollution to a host of diseases, diabetes, obesity, inflammation, Alzheimer's, dementia. And also another study by FIRSAC, it's a review that essentially says that chronic exposure can affect every organ and complicates existing health conditions. And naturally, I think we see that we need more emphasis on products that target the 65-plus consumer. There's a list of subcategories which we believe are opportunity for targeting the senior consumer. And here are some examples, for example, of products that have been launched recently that specifically target these people. So for example, Hydro Optima in Poland, it has low sodium and sugar. And the other product, by electromagnesium, it's specifically targeted for elderly people. And here I delve a bit more into the white spaces in terms of MPD for the 65-plus consumer. Essentially, we need a bit more refined segmentation here. And the core idea is to help users to help prevent and delay disease onset. We need also to look at some of the key features in the products. So focus a bit more, for example, on speed of action. The delivery format, I mentioned delivery format because you will know that 65-plus consumers have a greater tendency to be users of RX medication. So they're already popping pills every day. So we need to make sure that the delivery format is easier to ingest, for example. Also use senior-friendly packaging. I'm pretty sure this was mentioned yesterday. As we get older, unfortunately, we have reduced dexterity, for example, worsening eyesight. So we need to make sure that packaging is a bit more user-friendly. And also focusing on guaranteed efficacy and crucially backing up claims and benefits with clinically. And below are examples of two products, which I thought they were interesting. Coricidin in the US. It specifically targets high blood pressure patients. It's decongestant-free and the only notable brand for hypertensives in the US from what I've seen. And also Benylin, which is a cough and chest congestion relief. It's for people with diabetes, free from sugar and sorbitol, and specially formulated with menthol. And crucially, it has the same effective cough, congestion, and mucus relief. And tied to the aging consumer, we focus on longevity. Yes, this is an aspiration for many, and they perceive to be younger for longer, especially nowadays people in their 30s. As they approach their 40s, they want to extend their youth as much as possible, but crucially as well, stretch their healthy years as well. Naturally, as we've discussed, there's no easy feat. We have challenging health outcomes. Mentioned already obesity, poor mental health, brain, gut health. And to quote a few studies here on this slide, for example, a study by Novozymes reveals that 67% of 18 to 43 respondents, they feel stressed. Of them, 43 have experienced poor sleep, 47% low mood, 39% poor concentration. And I think this is partly also due to poor education. Too many people still are unaware of what constitutes a healthy gut biome and how it links to the wider body. Another study here by Amway in 2024 found that 62% suffered gut issues. And also an interesting finding from this very study was that there's a huge gulf between people's intent and behavior. So people, yes, they want to be healthier, but doesn't quite translate into a change in behavior to be more healthy, healthy food and exercising, for instance. And this is where our role is. I think, yes, we need to reinforce education, align new product development with longevity goals, and also recognizing that generally consumers are very well receptive to products that improve their well-being. Supplements are quite trusted by users, quoting a study from the Council of Responsible Nutrition last year, found 75% usage rates amongst American consumers, with a particular notable shift towards magnesium, for instance, prebiotics, ashwagandha, and melatonin, all tied to better health markers. And here I just quote one of a few interesting products I've seen, Centrum Super Greens. As you know, Centrum is a multivitamin, but in this case, multivitamin heritage, but also within its formulation incorporates herbals and also a prebiotic and enzyme blend. And its marketing activity very much inspired by the world's longest living communities, with the terms it uses quite synonymous to longevity, superfood and super greens. And finally, the third pillar we're discussing today is women's health. Again, discussed quite extensively yesterday already. From our own internal calculations, women use or purchase 62% of all consumer healthcare products, calculations which are derived from our DB6 database. Women-only conditions, increasingly gaining much more attention, menopause, menstrual pain, endometriosis. I think women generally stand out more than men in consumer healthcare. First, they're increasingly vocal about inadequate care of life stage conditions. They campaign so that doctors, marketeers, and governments act. Relative to men, they also tend to report and treat common ailments. Generally, we find that women are more comfortable with the concept of self-medication. They also purchase more medicine than men, not just for their own use, but also for their own family. So essentially, they are purchase decision makers as well. They're more likely to see a doctor or a pharmacist and more likely to take supplements. Again, here's another study. Women are more likely to alter lifestyle for better health, whereas men would rather take a pill for every ill, which is perhaps why doctors sometimes they just prescribe for men, whereas they promote lifestyle to women. And naturally, this has implications in the way many of our drugs are developed and promoted. So I think recognizing life stage conditions in women is a great commercial opportunity here. Obviously, it's already evident. There's a lot of women's products coming to market. But again, we can go further, segmenting by age group, or perhaps not necessarily by age group, but more focused on life stage conditions. And using marketing activity to make sure that through education and campaigns, we foster a sense of health ownership by women. We want women to take charge of their own health. Again, some more key trends which we're seeing in women's health. So marketing increasingly focusing on subverting tattoos, more natural products, and probiotics, for instance, entering into vaginal health and crossover with vaginal yeast infection treatments. We're seeing also lots of MPD in menopause. In our tracker, we've tracked over 200 since 2020, and that excludes those with a cosmetic positioning. We're seeing more products in menstrual pain. Here I provide two examples, Herbal Jam and Maxwellia's Avana and Ultravana. And also digital, so Femtech. So I've provided this example here, Evering, which tracks key biometrics, heart rate, for example, blood oxygen, menstrual cycle, and sleep cycles. The issue with Femtech generally is that, unfortunately, they're also very expensive, so they're not quite democratized products. They're still inaccessible to the average woman out there. And here's a list of subcategories, quoting some of our own data, which generally see 90 to 100% use by women, or at least purchasing by women. Seeing here the breadth of opportunity in these subcategories. So what should our basically MPD look like, in essence, given all these consumer trends we're seeing? I think the key message from the slide here is that consumers are people in the end. We're not just one health issue. We're an extensive range of health issues within our bodies. And we really need to think of MPD as something that joins the dots a little more within our health. So here I provide 2 examples. I mentioned sleep already. When I have poor sleep, it's not just experiencing poor sleep, but we suffer from lower mood, blurry vision, for instance, gaining weight, infection takes longer to recover, if we get a cold, a headache, migraines. So we really need to think of MPD as something that just doesn't focus on the core issue, but also on the extensive, on the broader side effects of having poor sleep. And again, I mentioned the example of food intolerance, which in itself as well comes with a range of side effects. And here's one example of a product that's kind of doing this already, Terra Tears. It goes beyond traditional eye health as we know it. It just doesn't target dry eyes or conjunctivitis, for example, but it's promoting sleep and also helping the eyes to recover from prolonged screen time by soothing, protecting, and hydrating the eyes. And again, we see more potential. We mentioned air pollution earlier. That's one white space. We feel it's lagging at the moment, tackling the air pollution's impact on our eye health. And to conclude, so what should we do to capture the consumer interest a bit better? Essentially, I think we need to emphasize brand values a bit more, demonstrate points of difference. Yesterday, Nicholas already mentioned that, yes, there's thousands of new products coming to the market, but many of them are Me Too products. They're not very different from many others in the market. Nothing stands out from the crowd, very few. And we need this to defend against what is more attractively priced generics and private labels. We need to back innovations with clinical evidence, knowing more our consumers, aligning with their values. Perhaps we need to take a step back from innovation and look at launching fewer, but better and hopefully successful enough that they're worthy of transferring them globally. And ramping up e-commerce to build loyalty via subscriptions and also offering premium pricing opportunities. And to finish off, I wanted to make a bit of an emphasis as well on sustainability products, because I think they're quite extensive now in the market as well. Just to quote a study from Clear Channel in the UK, which found that almost 2/3 of UK consumers would not buy these products. 20% are deterred by what they see as low quality, 30% cite trust issues. The plus side is that 20% are willing to pay more. The question is, how do we actually convince the other 80% that they're worth buying? So I think perhaps, yes, displaying the eco logos on the pack or via marketing is important, but perhaps we need to communicate certain benefits a bit more clearer to the consumer. For instance, how does traceability of the ingredient improve the product safety and efficacy? Also, how do we feature? What are the features that elevate the brand appeal? And essentially, sustainable products need a bit of a dual benefit. It benefits the environment, but we also need to keep in mind the user experience. And that's everything. Thanks for listening.
Thank you, Nicholas. That was great. For those of you who know hockey, Wayne Gretzky always talks about skating to where the puck is going, as opposed to where it is. I think today, Nicholas gave us a lot of information about where the puck is going, and that's where we want to go as well. Does anybody have any questions for Nicholas? You know, oh, there's one. Got it. There we go.
First of all, thanks for the presentation, very insightful. Even though we see all these trends in the market, the reality is very few brands are cracking in terms of sales, and then which makes me think, if you look at some of the very successful examples in our industry, they are actually not coming from necessarily aging or women. Look at ORT, what has happened with Liquid IV, Drip Drop, LMNT. This is more lifestyle. My point is, what's your take on when it comes to, let's say, Gen Z and millennials driving brands such as Oli, which was extremely successful even before, acquired by Unilever. So we see also this, at least in my mind, that there is an opportunity actually with younger population, which is driving. Well, what we need to see is like, okay, is this only a hype or is this a trend which is here to stay? But in my mind, if I look over the last 5 years, most of the successful examples is actually coming from younger population, brands driven by younger population. What's your take on that?
So I believe that, first of all, obviously we focused on a few aspects of the consumer here. Perhaps we haven't focused much on the younger consumer. But I think you mentioned Oli. I think a lot of these brands, what they're doing, focusing a bit more lifestyle. And what is lifestyle in the end? I think people want products, they link lifestyle to better health and well-being. I think they're very well at communicating that aspect to the end user, making them cool products that not just improve their health and well-being, but also is kind of a statement to the younger consumer. And that's, I believe, what is driving those sales. And I think they've been very good at kind of raising awareness with younger consumers. And as mentioned, consumers are very open to products that are very transparent and claiming, that they improve their well-being. And people will use these products if they can see that it will improve their well-being generally.
Great. Thank you. That's a great question. Anybody else? Yep, in the back.
Thank you. Sorry. The action intention gap interests me because it's across all healthcare. People intend to live healthy lives and don't. Particularly with sustainability. People say, yes, I want sustainable, eco-friendly products until they get to the shelf to choose them. But also, they expect eco-sustainable products not to work as well as traditional ones. What can we do about that?
Well, I think, as I mentioned, it's not just about sustainability, but when I said user experience, it's in terms of claims and benefits. So I mentioned clinical evidence. So whatever product is out there on the market, I think people want to see that they're getting the benefit of that product, regardless of whether it's sustainable or not. Primarily, the consumer is concerned with that the product actually works and provides a tangible health benefit. And I think when companies, produce these products claiming that they are sustainable, traceable, I think they need to keep in mind that the product needs to deliver what it claims it wants to deliver to the consumer. Without that, consumer will not trust the product, regardless of how sustainable it is.
Thank you. Any others? We have another one way in the back.
Thank you. Great presentation, Nick. Well done. How much do you think consumers care about science, the actual research, what goes on, what we say about the ingredients? I know in some of the digitally native brands online, they push the science very much. We do much less of that in retail brands. Have you any thoughts?
So I think generally science does impart trust and credibility in a product. However, we also need to keep in mind that we don't use jargon. People don't want to hear jargon, so I think it's important to communicate the benefits kind of in layman's terms, language that people can easily understand, and not going too much into the detail, the science behind it. In a sense, we need to communicate the science, but very easy, plain English, I would say, so that it's understandable by all consumers, educated or not.
Any others? Okay. Nicholas, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I think the modern sign, or the modern day sign of affection, is when your phones go up and you take pictures of the screens. It's really a compliment to speakers. So I saw a lot of phones go up. That's really wonderful. That always tells me that it's an impactful presentation. So keep the phones coming up. by all means. Nicholas, we're sharing all these slides with everyone as well, right? So you'll get copies, but please, it's nice to have them right on your phone. We get it, so please keep doing that. Our next speaker, Jean-Claude Bacos, who said we call him JC. So friends and family call him JC, so he's JC to us today and always. Comes with an incredible background. He today is the head of Europe for Neuritas, and so he'll be talking from that perspective today. But he brings a wealth of experience from consumer packaged goods, from both the general management side and the executive management side with great companies, some of the best in our business: Coca-Cola, L'Oreal, Novartis, Laboratoire UPSA, I think I said that right, and Bayer Consumer. So again, a very incredible level of experience, so we're excited to have him. He also recently took up a crazy sport. He is a slalom water skier. So if you can imagine going at about 120 knots on the water, doing crazy stuff, you might understand that when you get through his presentation. So we're going to turn it over to JC. He's going to talk about the game-changing opportunity for consumer health and unlocking the new generation of powerful, clinically proven ingredients. And like I said, it's going to be a little different. He's going to start over there. So JC's right over there.
Merci.
It's all yours.
Good morning, everyone. Yeah, and thank you. I was indeed a few years back sitting in one of those tables, trying to figure out how to innovate, and I had this pressure, to come back and do the 5-year projection plan with numbers and everything. And one day, coming from FMCG with this obsession, same on point of difference, someone said, "Hey, JC, you've got 200 biosimilar molecules in the market, just in that one single market." So, okay, that's good stuff. And then down the road, some former colleagues, when I was Asia Pac head, may smile, because we had to do around the equivalent of 10 million with a flavor, like black fruit flavor, on top of like just the same SKU, you just change the flavor, and you do 10 million. Sounds easy, huh? Yeah, I can see your face. I had exactly the same face. And then on top, you listen, like the talk before, to the trends, the insights that you and Nicolas gave this morning. And you think, okay, people asking for nature, and we're sending something like this into the body. Actually, it's quite good because we call it small molecule or protein messengers. But we have to continue to do so because this is, for now, the best solution in risk and benefit. So I encourage people, and especially medicine in particular, to continue that journey until we find a different solution. However, people asking for more naturality and something that would be also good for their health. So what about if we could go and potentially in that boat, physically, you may have just a blue container on the top or inside that may bring some value, that will do something to the body. But you have to carry the whole thing into the body to make it work. So what if we could, almost like yesterday, close our eyes and think, if we could take everything from nature and understand how nature works in a very natural way to manage health and beauty, because for thousands of years there were no doctors around and people were surviving, thriving, and everything else. So a crazy bunch of scientists led by Dr. Nora Kaldi, our founder, started to think, okay, let's decode this language of nature, language of life. And then she discovered that there's tons of mathematics in nature, which is kind of weird because you think, wow, mathematic numbers everywhere. So she found out that there's one common language, mathematical language, between plant, animal, and human beings. So that's quite intriguing. And this language is mostly carried out by peptide. So if you are a non-scientist like myself, and there are a few in the room, majority of yours are quite smart people in science, it's a combination of amino acids, or it's a little piece of protein. We could call it microprotein. But for our scientists, we call it signaling molecules. So it's almost a 3D mathematical code, well done by nature, that matches into one of the body receptors to do something amazing into the body. The only limit is that there are so many in nature, so most of the scientists, like Dr. Umland, thought, okay, this is too hard to spend time on this, and I'm going to focus on something else. And I think you were absolutely right. So let me take an example and pick up on Jean-François Couvet, a former competitor of mine that I always admire. As you are now strong in leadership, I propose you to raise your arm like yesterday, but just one arm. Hold this. And let's imagine those guys are a protein. You could hold yourself by the hand to make it more real, but that will be okay. You could be naked to make it more natural, but I think that will do for today, because otherwise he's going to throw me out from the room. And let's imagine that our data scientists have to find in this room this thing very quickly. But now you imagine 1,000 rooms, and you imagine 1 million rooms. And in a very precise way, we're not going to find your glasses, but we're going to find this thanks to data science and advanced pioneering life science. Because here is a number of exact mathematical combination that you have in nature in this code. So there are thousands, millions of peptides floating around in your body right now, but most of those get digested and do nothing. So you have to figure out which one are now participating to certain functions that you want. So for that, Neuritas has invented the magnifier. It's an amazing AI platform, 10 years of research. And I really like your comments on AI. Is it positive? It's quite daring to take AI into science. And yes, AI is kind of an amazing thing, and I did simplify and I hide most of the confidential stuff in this. So you send your computer virtually like yours, but like equivalent of thousands of computers learning without yourself. It's called unsupervised learning. And some, they have already some experience. So they come back at some stage, and then you do what you see here, tournament. And the idea is that you have this receptor, which I simplify with my hands, but you have to find the exact matching solution so it can work. Otherwise, it's absolutely useless. So the big point with AI, if you just do AI, soon enough, you're going to land nowhere with something really weird that is not natural. So what needs to happen is every day, every single hour, you need biology, so 4-story building in Dublin, wet lab, proteomic, peptidomic, to be constantly connected and feeding the machine to learn each time real life science, medical, and then understand what is right, what is wrong. Otherwise, it simply doesn't work. So I think one of the answers from yesterday's is that AI has to be connected deeply to real life, and I think the key vision of our scientists was to focus on one single thing and sort it out. And then if you look on this hand side, you have a discovery pathway, and many of you in pharma would say, okay, yes, it's exactly the same, and it takes me 12, 15 years to discover something. 0.2% success rate from in silico question to success in vitro. Our scientists are now at 64.2, and if we pre-filter, it's 80%. And from 12, 15 years, it takes us 6 months, 9 months, 12 months, then it's done. So it's incredibly fast. So I would say it's a positive expression of AI, try to find solution to life science, to better health, to find the exact shape. Keep holding your hand, Jean-François, because leadership, you know, it's... yeah, so we get the idea. So to find this... Non, mais tu déconnes, là. Ouais. Merci. Non, mais keep holding. So to find the exact shape here, you need to have all this, and then the machine, if something doesn't work out, they'll learn each time. We produce our own, what we call hydrolysate, so we take the peptide from an abundant food source, a protein coming from rice, peas, so a lot of innocuity, abundance. And then if something doesn't gel, in 3 times in vitro, human clinical, then we feed that back into the game. So let me take an example of the first most important organ, because the scientists said, what is the most important thing in health? And they were not talking to you guys in inside, because consumers didn't say it. The most important organ of life is the skeletal muscle. There's really different pathways between the heart and skeletal muscle, but it's the most important organ in your body. So if it goes well, guess what? You're going to feel much better, you're going to have more energy and everything else. So they focus on that, learning that in different stages of life, if you get immobilized through COVID, if we cast you for 1 week, the body will say, okay, is not hunting in the forest like it used to, or she. Okay, we're going to degrade muscle. And nature believes that after the age of 25 or 30, well, you're getting older. You had your 4, 5, 6 kids, and now you're getting older, and let's degrade this muscle because he's going to need less of it. And this is insane, but it's mathematically programmed into in each of our bodies. So, therefore, we have to take that in consideration. And it's a reason why our scientists then translate into, and there's a bit also for the sciencey people in the room, so we go to the mTOR mechanism, and we can detail that to you guys in more details. Phospho-6 is the area for skeletal muscle. We dock there, and we give a tremendous boost or pull. Yes, thank you. Because that's really showing Jean-François the leadership to the right peptide. And then we go to atrogen-1, MRF1 to ensure we down-modulate this degradation. So basically, we don't stop it, but we modulate it down. And that's the reason why, yes, after taking this several times, I'm back into slalom water skiing. It's a bit insane, but I thought, okay, why not? So I did stop muscle degradation and then amplifying protein synthesis. Skeletal muscle, I don't look disproportionate, but inside the muscle structure, there's a lot of energy, endurance, and everything else. And then at the same time, we manage a lot of downstream mechanism, like some of you may have recognized the TNF-alpha chain of anti-inflammation. So we measure that with IL-1 and 6 and ensure that, yes, there's a bit of inflammation, but then we pull it out. So from this core muscle health, in reality, what happens? You have a biogenesis of mitochondria cells, ATP, that will come 50% more. That's coming from 3 different clinicals. And from there, you have this energy that will stay 8-9 days into the body minimum. Then you have the sense of power, the sense of energy, but this is not really a consumer expression. So from there, we can take you to about 20 different positioning. Some of it were courageously taken by folks that were studying the clinicals that virtually jumped on us. I opened North America for my founder about 3 years ago, and now we're just opening Europe. But those guys came to the US and said, hey, we would like to understand better. And they launched it, and I think I wouldn't be shy to say that this SKU is going triple digit, and I'm sure that market data from France will substantiate that. So there's really something interesting to see. I take it during 2-3 weeks, and I'm transforming with more energy, more power, more strength. And then if I take it every month, it's kind of a true health span. We spoke about longevity. We don't like longevity so much because our heart rate will get stuff at 120, and we don't have the code for that as yet. And there's a lot of complexity into longevity mechanism. I think we cracked one thing the other day for cosmetic. The scientists in front of us had tears in their eyes. They said, well, we worked on that stuff for 25 years, and now a bunch of, we say, gilets à capuche, you know, those guys in sweaters. In 6 months, they find a solution, and voila, it's done. So we are at the start of what we called longer health span. From a marketing standpoint, it has to be translated right to the consumer. But yes, if you prolong the dynamic of your muscle health, you will avoid 80% of all-cause mortality, and you have all chance to prolong your life in good health. So that's a given. So there's a lot of stuff that we can do with that just one example of peptide. And yes, we do have some clinicals for the science people in the room, done by Professor Van Loon in Maastricht, done by Dr. Andy Franklin Miller in Sentry, head of Sentry Clinic, advisor of All Blacks of Liverpool. And he said to Nora, no, this is not going to work. You know, you put a few grams of signaling molecule and that will do this and that. I don't believe in it. But I'll still do the clinical because you are in Dublin and everything else. He looked at the results and thought, oh my God, okay. On the next graph, I think he did what we called a recovery trial after strong exercise. People were struggling less, 48 hours. So imagine quadriceps where you really struggle. And then people became stronger above the baseline. And he said, wow, my God. So from there, 1 year later, he dropped the big salary of his clinic and joined Neuritas. Neuritas, by the way, not a startup organization anymore. Those of you who are familiar with venture capital, we are past Series C. And we have folks that are more evergreen, future of food, future of nutrition as shareholders. ECBF, European Circular Fund for Sustainability, semi-public fund is one example of our key shareholder. So energy, more power, I mean, double amount of energy, double amount of power, double amount of recovery. So that's really the interesting piece, just on a single peptide. So you can see the high precision on that example, that is really a game-changing event. Anyone not believing in the clinicals that I presented? Are you okay? Because the one who doesn't believe, you know, I have a very simple, you can drop your stuff because I think you show leadership. I'm okay to do during the break, push-ups. I will disclose my age to that person. And if you don't believe in push-ups, we'll do pulls, you know, where you have to pull your body weight. I have a 20 years old. He said, hey, let's do this. I did, of course, sitting in front of my PC 1 or 2. Well, now I'm doing 15, which is insane. So, and if you are biking across a mountain from 1,200 meters, you will go to 1,500. If you are walking 2 hours, you will walk 3 hours, and so on. So, yeah, no, I think that's the magic of the whole event. And the key elements to drive protein synthesis, if we take the gold standard, leucine, creatine, CHMB, and the rest, we beat them at lower dose, time 2, times 4, times 5. And guess what? When you get in your 60, 65, 70, leucine hardly work anymore because we model that on all cells. It hardly works. Nature is well done. So if we're able to boost, and if there's someone who wants to do pre-sarcopenia prevention in a room, come to me, we'll build a clinical, and off we go, because I think that serves a magnificent purpose. So from here, we'll try to bring as an organization about 1 blockbuster a year. So muscle function is one, but we will be also in skincare. We have one available, anti-aging, that rebuild the extracellular matrix. If I take the example of sleep, it's funny because we did something with the Oura Ring, just completed well, we are doing the clinicals, not available yet for Europe. There were so many data coming every 2 minutes, so we've sent 2 folks in their jumpers, data scientists, to look at the insane amount of data. You fall asleep, longer sleep, you wake up, you are bright. So it's just an amazing thing, just thanks to a peptide. You decrease the excess cortisol level, the stress that you have into the body, and then you have a better sleep, no side effect. So that's coming soon into the market. And the next thing is, we spoke about glucose control and GLP-1. Difficult to serve prevention for you. I tried during 20 years, it's not an easy task, but here you invite the muscle cells to absorb sugar. You give actually people a bit of positive energy, so you have something to say. And then we also at the same time go really on GLP-1 mechanism, I think a bit more precise than some other solutions, to give the sense of satiety to folks, and off we go. So, in summary, I think both Nicolas and Hall, the two folks, were right. Because, you know, I believe, you know, in the mystery, they are twins. Because he cannot be on every single continent. He hasn't been there for decades, giving us this amazing optimism, energy, inspiration. So they must be twins. Huh? It can not only be one man. And really, from my heart, thank you so much for all this over those years. Huh? So you're absolutely correct that AI, to be positive, needs to be on the ground every day. And then we go with an open ground. Some companies will give us a challenge. They need to be of certain size. And then we'll find a solution. So if you have something out of the blue like that, go to Nicolas, Monsieur Nicolas, and then he will come to us. But this is just the beginning of a new journey. And I think for the moment, we have no equivalent in the market. But of course, in a few years, that will come. But it's bringing a tremendous hope to addressing health, lifespan, and everything in a different manner. Any easy question from you guys before I disappear? Ouais. Merci.
One amazing fact about JC, he's actually 106 years old.
105, mate.
Oh, that's right. Birthday's next week. Are there questions for? Yeah, there you go. There's one.
Dr. Umland?
Yeah, Thorsten Umland from Bayer. Yeah. Sorry, my questions are never easy. The way we know that herbals work is normally it's hundreds of APIs working synergistically on hundreds of different targets to have a certain effect on the body. What you're now saying is, I take one single peptide acting on one single receptor, and it works better than my herbal extracts. Is that understanding correct?
Yeah, it was like that in my previous life as we were peers, huh? So don't be surprised. But always very to the point. You're absolutely correct. So if I go to the backstage of PeptiStrong, it's a peptide network, and there's about 12 lead peptides that would do the trick. So it's not necessarily just one. I try to simplify a bit. And then when you take herbals, when you go to, we spoke a lot in Singapore about traditional Chinese medicine, Ayurveda in India, and all those traditional things. So it's by correlation that you think those plants are doing this and that. So you throw a lot of stuff, millions of peptides to the wall, and yes, they will do something. So what we're doing is understanding inside the plant, trying to figure out what is the exact mechanism, messaging, signaling molecule inside, and try to amplify a bit to a degree. So I cannot do it for everyone in the room, but we did sometimes you can take a potato, scan it, and find all the incredible things inside. And I know you have some plant combination that are super interesting, that perhaps one day we need to investigate to improve lives of people in digestive health, for instance. And then you will see why it's working and how it you could avoid some of, the containership could be a natural one, how you could avoid certain things, because sometimes nature can be hostile, and how you could focus on the right stuff. She agrees. Merci. At least someone. Yes. Yeah, all that, I can bring some more serious scientists. We've got about 40 PhDs in Dublin, and the head of clinical can talk to you guys about like a placebo control. All the clinical are done in a pharma-like way. Our head of biology is coming from specialty medicine. We do 3 times our in vitro, and yes, we do all that by external professor, peer-reviewed, published. On PeptiStrong alone, we have 3 publications. We're bringing 5 or 6 papers across in the coming weeks.
I think we have another question here.
Easier question than Thorsten.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good morning. My name's Penny Curtis. I'm a brand manager. I bring products to market, and I'm fascinated as to how you see this coming to market. Is it a pill that you take? Is it something that you drink? How do you see the formatting, and how do you see it being presented to the consumer?
Yeah, the first thing is when we were in the US and people were taking the ingredient, it was super difficult in the first instance to land this. So we try, some of us, and that's my role and one colleague who is coming from marketing, to work with you on the right concept. Because we want to sell out success for our organization, a research organization. So we work on the right concept, the right approach. Because nobody in the street is going to ask you for, oh, I would like to improve my muscle health. They have no clue on that. So first stage is insights, market insights, reason to believe, transformation in benefits, and then the value proposition. And then, absolutely, like one of the slides there earlier today, you want easier formats. For instance, it's insane, but one guy told me, JC, I want a chocolate with Pepti Strong. I said, why? Because elderly people, they would eat this piece of chocolate anyway. So we did a formulation last week, and I have, if someone is interested in that, a chocolate with Pepti Strong. And there's another one on sleep, by the way, where you eat a little square and boom, you go. The guy tried in his shop, you know, the chocolate maker. And then after 20 minutes, he was starting to fade out. I said, you ate that stuff right now? It's 10 a.m.? He said, yeah, I had 2 of them. So he was starting to be smashed, of course, because, bon. So format is super important. And yes, there's, in this first discovery, we have to manage 2.4 gram because it's matching with the clinical, but we go into sachets, we go into gummies, we go into different things. It's not 100% soluble, but I work with a new organization in Canada, and they're almost there. But Sick Shake is already there. We can, because by prediction in AI, we made sure that we could cook it, put it in UHT process, and then we check the bioavailability in mass spec, and it works. So yes, different formats, perhaps not all of them, but it is already existing.
Anyone else? Jennifer Cooper. Uh-oh, wait a minute. You better get ready.
Right.
Sorry, I'm Jennifer Cooper, and I think I have a hard question. So you have all these great biomarkers and this outcomes in energy and the number of exercise capacity and everything, but we're interested in lean muscle mass outcomes because of GLP-1, because of sarcopenia. And so do any of your new studies have a lean muscle mass endpoint?
Yes, so what we discovered is that first for muscle mass, because some people virtually jumped on us in the US, the likes of GNC, Nutrable, so the sports specialists, sports nutrition in the US. So when people train, and usually it's after 2-3 months, you see the muscle mass being transformed, so it's linked to exercise. Interestingly enough, because I was in the US 2 weeks ago, there's a doctor association, and I can give you the details offline, because with doctors, they're independent. They figured out that about 42% from Ozempic is off-label, the GLP-1 prescription, and it's creating massive disaster and side effects. Muscle shrinking, skeletal muscle shrinking in particular. So that's inducing a lot of downstream mechanism, less energy, less bone density, the whole shebang that we bring up. So they gave 2-3 solutions, I think not only ours, but they say preferably Pepti Strong, because the only side effect of Pepti Strong that is known after, I think, few, like 100 million units are consumed, is if someone is allergic to fava beans. There's about 20-30 people in France that have favism by country. If you exclude that, everyone can take it on and on. There's no issue. So yes, for GLP-1 side effects, please do. And then openly, I am looking for a decent partner to, because we are more mission-driven, to go on pre-sarcopenia prevention. I'm also looking for someone interested in doing, because it's going to be a life-changing thing, because we had an incredible testimonial, pre-menopausal stage and menopausal stage. Post-menopause is same men, women, but they're hell of a difference. So we need to quantify a bit what we're hearing. I've been speaking to a lot of pharmacists and assistants, and they say, hang on, they're not selling, and I'm sure you can see that in the data, it's not 1.5 box per year. Some are buying 10 per year, 12 per year. Every single month they're on it because they got the point. So we need to substantiate a bit more that on the pre-sarcopenia field, same as women in menopause and same as other patient group. But yeah, have this conversation with Monsieur Nicolas and his team, and then we're on the way. And we will try, you know, to differentiate and not to have too many people on one segment. So far, so good.
We have time for one more, if there's one more question out there somewhere. No? All right. JC, that was wonderful.
Bon.
Thank you.
Merci. Et merci, Monsieur Nicolas.
Terrific. What a great couple of presentations to start. All right, Ellie, you've got to carry the torch from here now. I met Ellie Adams 3 or 4 years ago on a stage similar to this, and she was on a panel with somebody from Alibaba. And it was a very impressive discussion around how to do business with what can be a fairly difficult organization. And so I went up to her afterwards, and the woman from Alibaba said, if you want to do business with us, you do business with Ellie Adams. So Ellie founded Kiva, Q-I-V-A, not to be confused with IQVIA. No relation, not a baby of IQVIA or anything. It's her company. She's founder and CEO. She does a terrific job in multiple markets, certainly in Asia. She has a lot of history in the UK as well as in the US and across Europe. She views e-commerce as borderless, so you can really do business all over the world, and she's going to explain to us how you can do that. Her background, Deloitte, Thomson Reuters, so she's a really smart person too when it comes to business. She also has 14 chickens and 2 pigs and 3 children, 3 kids, right? So her husband has gotten into farming. They're on their way to 400 chickens. We'll be taking egg orders at the end of this meeting, and we'll get them sent to you. So we're going to talk today about the e-commerce evolution and unlocking global, oh my Lord, sorry, Ellie. Global growth and profitability. This is terrible. And profitability. Please get up here and say it, Ellie.
Thank you, Pat. Good morning, everybody. I wonder before I start if you could indulge me. Could I ask for you to raise your hand if you have shopped, thank you, if you've shopped on Amazon or an equivalent marketplace in the last month? That looks like 100%. What about the last week? That's about 70%? What about checking social media this morning? Who did that? Isn't it interesting how as users we are embracing online e-commerce in our daily lives? But as professionals at a company level, I think there's a lot of intimidation about e-commerce, particularly in the healthcare industry. And this is the topic I'd like to unpick today, looking at some of the myths around online and e-commerce and how companies are using it within their businesses. Now, I'm missing a clicker. Do I just, thank you. So before I start, I want to give you a little bit of an introduction to me, and I'm going to give you the version that I would never write on LinkedIn. I really understood your point, JC. I graduated with a sciences degree, and I am not particularly scientific, and I thought, oh my goodness, what am I going to do? And I decided, being a British person, I was pretty embarrassed that I didn't speak any languages. And I was going to learn a language. And I decided that the language I would learn would be Mandarin. Very obvious. So I went to live in China for several years, living with Chinese families to learn Mandarin. And after a few years, I found a job working with Thomson Reuters. And then I moved to a consultancy called Monitor Deloitte to provide commercial strategy. And I loved my job at Deloitte. But there was something missing, and it was you could provide great advice, you could feel really smart about yourself, but you never got your hands dirty. You never saw the results of your work. So in 2015, I decided I was going to take the plunge to set up my own company, Kiva Global. And I was not just going to provide some advisory work, my company was going to deliver our advice in market And the work we do is effectively brand stewardship or management in international markets. And speaking Mandarin, the obvious country to start this was China. So you can see here are some pictures of me on my most recent trip to China with some of my team. But the interesting thing, and I didn't plan for this at the time, is that China's extremely advanced where it comes to its adoption of e-commerce. And so what this has allowed me to do is become quite knowledgeable, and the people in my company, about how to use e-commerce as a consumer healthcare business. And so over the last few years, we found ourselves not just working in China, but maybe Korea or France. And as Pat said, this is the message I want to convey today, in that e-commerce is a set of principles, and they're universal. And they don't just apply in China, they can apply elsewhere. And that's what we're going to unpick. So I'm going to do this in 3 separate topics. The first one, I'm going to look at why does e-commerce present such a unique opportunity for healthcare brands specifically? I then want to think about challenges. So what are the challenges that come from that? And finally, I'm going to show you some examples of the work my company does with our clients in international markets, bringing these ideas to life. So to start with the why is healthcare so well suited to e-commerce? Well, this all sits with the shopper, because the shopper is your business. And if the shopper is online at any point in their journey to you, you effectively have an online business. But when I was putting this slide together, I was looking at this inverted triangle and thinking, I just don't think this cuts it somehow, not in healthcare. Because in healthcare, we're dealing with something much more complicated. And actually, I think complexity can be our friend. So I did a bit of Googling, and I found this wonderful image. This is not mine. I have taken this from someone on Google. But I thought it was fantastic in showing the complexities, the U-turns, the roundabouts, the challenges, the question marks that are involved in a typical shopper journey within our industry of healthcare. And I'd like to make the argument that because of this, we are actually extremely well adapted and suited to embracing the opportunity of online and e-commerce. The first example I'll give is this word acceptance at the top right. And this is really interesting, and it contrasts to many other industries, because actually our shopper doesn't want us. They really don't want us in their lives, thank you very much. You don't see a pack of laxative and think, God, I can't wait to try that. It's completely different. So your shopper mission up to the point of acceptance is going to be possibly less formed, possibly looking at symptoms, much more nuanced. And at this point, where are we often? You know, your raise of hands gave that indication immediately. We're online. We're not looking for the laxative. We are looking online at something else. Possibly our shopper mission is about avoiding the illness. The second point I'll make is that this journey behind me often takes place in parallel to a clinical journey. Now, a clinical journey is very physiological. I've got a bad knee, I'm going to go and see my doctor. But in our world, we get access to a holistic range of challenges that come from having a problem with your knee. They could be emotional, it could be shame, it could be not knowing how to tell your family. This wide range of holistic challenges that come from healthcare are in the remit of the consumer healthcare professional, and we have unique access to them. Again, where is this access? Often this access is sensitive. People aren't going to share this openly. A lot of the time, it's online. The final point on this slide is this sort of latter stage from when an illness stabilizes towards the advocacy stage. Sorry, I'll start one step back. Exploration and engagement all the way to advocacy. And the reason I point this out is because, again, I think in healthcare, our shopper is so different to a shopper looking for a pair of Adidas trainers because they deeply care. When you accept you have a problem, it's affecting your body. You really want to get engaged. You want to understand the details. You want to try the potential options. And when you find something that works, you don't just get on with life, you evangelize. And this, again, is a unique aspect of a healthcare shopper and why I think online is so well suited to us. Because the average time on a smartphone globally is 3 hours and 52 minutes. And this is why online represents opportunities for us as healthcare brands. Now, that's not to say it doesn't have challenges. And these are the typical challenges that I will often hear when I meet a new company, whether it's Amazon is messing up my pricing, products leaking across borders, online is eroding my offline business. But I think the actual challenge that they're trying to communicate often is this one. It feels out of control. What a familiar feeling for all of us. It feels out of control. And it begs the question, can you actually control e-commerce? Can you? No. You cannot control e-commerce. Because e-commerce, I've come to view it as a mirror. And sometimes when you look in a mirror, it shows you what you don't want to see. And the e-commerce mirror will generally shine up all of the teeny tiny little things that you got wrong. And normally, the biggest errors come in our commercial fundamentals. Just one example, Amazon is messing up my pricing. Does Amazon set pricing? Does it? No. Amazon takes pricing. Who does it take it from? Sellers. Who has the contract with the sellers? We do. It's about the commercial fundamentals. And this is dealt with, I believe, by understanding that e-commerce is not a bolt-on. It's not something we've added on because our shoppers like to be online. It is a complete business model. Jack Ma, back in 2015, had this saying, online to offline. It was very popular at the time. However, I don't believe it holds true today. A shopper moves between an integrated set of online, offline channels all the time. We can't separate them. The commercial fundamentals that underpin your business have to work for online and off. Now, this is not to say there aren't challenges, because there absolutely are. And I'd say the ones that I've come across the most, and where I think one can find solutions that help them to embrace e-commerce, are threefold. And the first is pricing. In a context where consumers are extremely adept at finding the lowest price, and where international borders are very, very porous, it is incredible how quickly a product can end up moving across borders when pricing is left out of control. Now, obviously, the consequence of this is very commercially difficult. It's a loss of brand equity, it's a difficulty managing your customer affairs, it's a difficulty with managing your pharmacovigilance, it can create havoc to a P&L. And these are problems that we don't need when running a consumer brand. But they can be addressed, where we can recognize that the problem is not e-commerce, the problem is our pricing. Whether it's pricing corridors, this idea that across all international markets, you're keeping your pricing within a corridor of acceptability, to pricing waterfall restructuring to allow for e-commerce, to even reviewing how we work with platforms, 1P, 3P, gross procurement models. There are lots of methods through which we can address the challenge of pricing, but it's not saying e-commerce is the problem. The second challenge I've come across is supply chain, and I'm not talking about the act of moving goods per se. I'm talking about structure and control of a P&L and all of the movements in your business, from the flow of goods to the flow of finances to the costs. And these change dramatically when we introduce e-commerce into our system. Now, this is not rocket science, it's just a new process. And it can be navigated when we can face up to those details and incorporate them. The final area I'll reference is about portfolio. Because when you're selling the same product across online, offline, all channels, things can become really problematic, particularly in our sector, where we're often very reliant on low-volume advisory sellers who are providing an additional service to their shopper. And this is where I step back and think about a shopper mission, because your shopper mission is going to be very different depending where they are shopping at that time. And this is where portfolio differentiation can really come into play. Now, for many clients, creating a new product is not going to be possible, but you can do other things. Different formulations, different sizes of different packaging, different sizes. There are ways to meet the shopper mission at their different points with a different product. So the takeaway for this is that 99% of the problems that get associated with e-commerce are nothing to do with e-commerce at all. They're to do with commercial fundamentals. And when we can get these right, we can move forward. Now, to close my presentation, I want to bring some of our work to life for you. And I obviously cannot focus on commercial fundamentals, so I'm going to bring together some of the examples we have working online with our clients. And I'm going to center this on some of the stages of the shopper journey that we looked at previously. So the first one is about pre-acceptance. So you can see a man burying his head in the sand. Then I'm going to look at when a customer engages with their problem. They have accepted there is a problem, they're going to do something about it. What do they do? And then finally, I'm going to look at how online can extend the lifetime value of a customer. So first off.
So I bought the Navage after many, many recommendations, and it is such a game changer. Thank you to everybody who recommended it, because it is absolutely worth every single penny. I've had a migraine for 4 days now.
Oh my gosh, bro. That's a lot of snot, bro. That is disgusting. Bro, what in the... That was in you.
Yeah.
What? How do you feel?
Good. 4-day migraine. Gone.
Oh my gosh.
Hopefully.
Whoever recommended that.
Thank you.
Bless your heart.
Was it worth $100?
Yeah, it was to make my wife stop crying. Yes.
That actually started before I had meant to, but it was actually quite timely. Isn't it repulsive? That turns my stomach. And this is geared towards a shopper at the point in their mission where they haven't recognized that they have a need for a Navage irrigation device, but they might be very aware that they've got a blocked nose. And at this point, the mission is almost about avoidance of an illness. And I want to bring in a social media platform. You've probably seen which one I'm talking about. This is a Chinese social media platform that has hit the world with force. And in China, it has absolutely torn up the rule book for how we do e-commerce. TikTok is a fusion of interest and advertising. And it feeds its users content that it thinks they'll prefer. So what they'll like, what they should like, and what, given the right nudge, they will like. And so we use this a lot when a shopper mission is less defined in terms of wanting to go and find a solution, but perhaps the shopper will at this point recognize that they too have that much mucus in their nose, and they too have a family. There are lots of subtle references throughout these videos, which are quite fun, but they're also intended to disrupt the thinking of a normal person who's on their way to buying a Navage nasal irrigation product. I'm going to show you a Chinese one, just so you can compare the difference.
原来我老公也有卡 bug 的时候，作为10年的资深鼻炎人，每天纸巾不离手，鼻通药油走哪踹哪，总是习惯性给鼻子来个马杀鸡。一到春夏换季，哪怕是正式场合都止不住狂打喷嚏，时间久了，口呼吸也越来越严重。听说洗鼻能缓解，他还给自己买了洗鼻工具，但经历了几轮被支配的恐惧后。于是我做了很多功课，其实不是洗鼻工具不好，只是没有买到合适的。后来给它换成了带负压吸力的，跟之前的挤压式不一样，它能像吸尘器一样，通过加压让生理盐水更深入的清洁鼻腔后部和4个鼻窦，带走黏脓黄鼻子。他自己摸索了几轮后，都变成熟练技工了。加入温的纯净水，他说体验感会更好。把配套的生理盐水往上一扣，安装上硅胶鼻头，对准鼻子摁一下就可以冲洗了。鼻枕是软硅胶材质，不会刺激鼻腔，而且是可拆卸的，随时都能换。小 小一个，左到哪都能用，里面还自带废液仓，一边冲洗一边收集废液，再也不怕脏水滋一地了。水流的冲洗压力也很平衡，几乎感受不到异物感。坚持用了一段时间 ，bug 解除了，洗鼻成了他每天晚上仅次于刷牙的头等大事。
China for you. Now, a next stage, a latter stage of a shopper's journey, their mission is going to be quite different. Maybe they've recognized this is quite, triggering for them. They do have a mucus problem. And at this point, a shopper's mission could be anything from taking control of their condition to comparing potential options. And at this point, your shopper is no longer really a shopper. They're a detective because they want detail and they want evidence. And in the case of this client, Navage, what's the best form of evidence you can present a would-be shopper? Anyone? Mucus, Nicholas. How much mucus can you get out of your nose? That's the evidence they're looking for. And this is what we deliver in China, where we have effectively mucus wars on social media, where people will share the spoils of their battle with their nose on social media. And it's repulsive to you until you also have this problem. And this isn't unique to China at all. So in other markets, this is an example of Facebook community groups set up to deal with rhinitis problems, to share information, because as soon as you become engaged, you want information, you want evidence. And who do you want it from? You want it from real people, real users who've had this condition, who understand it, who've experienced it. And here's a video. This is another client called Feliway, which is a brand owned by Siva. This is animal pet health here. So these are lots of different discussions about how you can control a crazy cat with a pheromone spray, for example. But note how the content of this video is now directional, because this shopper, they need information in order to action their mission.
Is your cat peeing outside the litter box? Is your cat pulling his hair out? Maybe he's stressed and maybe these pheromones could help. This is a chemical, a molecule that is a pheromone that cats can sense, but you cannot smell it at all. But this is what we call the headbutt pheromone. On the top of their head, when the cats rub on things and mark their territory like that, they're saying, this is okay, I've been here before, this is fine with me. So if you spray this pheromone around the house, it just makes them more at ease. If you have multiple cats in the house and there seems to be some kind of competition going on, the Feel Away Multi might be better for you. This is the pheromone that the mother gives off to her kittens, and it says we're all part of the same family. We're all okay together. If your cats are scratching in inappropriate places, we have Feel a Scratch. This is another pheromone. It's a pheromone that's under the pads of the paws. When they're scratching on things, they are marking their territory. It's a natural behavior for cats. And this pheromone tells the cats this is where you should.
Now, the final stage I want to look at before concluding my presentation is a really important one, and I think it often gets overlooked. And this is about when a shopper becomes a consumer and they're regaining control of their condition, moving towards a state of advocacy. Now, in China, remember, obviously, they're several light years ahead, and that's for many reasons that are always not always good. But this is an example of what's taking place now on a platform called Jingdong, where you don't just order your medicine to arrive in the post, you order a nurse to come along with it and help you to use this, whatever medication you've bought, and check on your condition. Now, this is extreme, and I'm not saying this is where we'll go in Europe or other markets. However, the concept and the principles of this can be applied. So here are two ENT specialists, one from America, Dr. Levine, and Dr. Zhu from China. And the way this started for us was Dr. Levine was used as a sort of adverse events SOP management protocol, to make it sound very sexy. And if anyone ever had an issue using their irrigation device, perhaps a nosebleed, Dr. Levine would be on hand within 24 hours to give any support. So, FDA compliance, but also good customer management. So we did this in China with Dr. Zhu as well. But what we also did in China was we started to collect our customers. So in order to get a warranty for their product, customers have to join a community support group on a chat group called WeChat. And the most amazing thing happened because our ENT specialist is curating and moderating this group. And you can see the number of messages that come into that group, asking for community support, asking our doctor to have a look at their x-rays. And this is such an effective way of extending the lifetime value of your shopper. The repeat purchase rate for Navage in China now is 45%. And I think a significant part of that is using online to retain customers. So in summary, the shopper is your business. And if the shopper is online at any point on their extremely elongated and complex journey to you, then you effectively have an online business already. E-commerce is a mirror. It's not the problem. If there are problems, they're probably being shown up by e-commerce, and they're most likely to be centered in addressing your commercial fundamentals, pricing, portfolio, supply chain. But when you can deal with these direct, you're onto a winner. I think often the best place to start is the shopper journey and understanding that shopper mission throughout that journey. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you, Nicholas and team. My email is on the slide, and feel free to get in touch. Thank you.
That was terrific. Thanks, Ellie. Anybody have any questions for Ellie? I have one about cross-border. So trying to get products that have claims means you have to register country by country. Cross-border helps kind of alleviate that, right?
Yeah.
Can you explain that a little bit to folks? Because there's a lot of white space markets where you can't send your product into that country if you don't have the regulatory approval, and that can be either expensive or time-consuming, and cross-border maybe helps, right?
Cross-border is it's funny, it depends who you ask about cross-border, because cross-border is an official mechanism for selling across borders, but it's also a pain for many other companies where they describe it as my product as being leaking cross borders. But cross-border is an official term. I think it's very relevant, particularly for China, because it was set up as a legal means of trading with China, but from the outside of China, because as you all know, the regulatory process for actually selling in the domestic market in China is very long and very cumbersome. So they set up this system where you effectively hold product outside in a free trade zone and you sell when a consumer buys. Now, as Pat says, when you're in this status, your regulatory body is your home regulatory body. So Navage here is a good example. We meet FDA compliance in China. We also make sure we meet Chinese advertising legal compliance, but we, as a product, we're not registered in China, and deliberately so, because consumers are much more likely to trust us if we're not. So yeah, you make an absolutely very, very valid point. You have to be mindful of Chinese regulation, but actually you are accountable to your home regulatory body.
Thanks. The biggest issue that I've seen in the past experiences with manufacturers and Amazon, for example, manufacturer usually doesn't have the retail license to sell pharmaceuticals. Yeah. That's why manufacturer would sell it to the distributor would sell it to the retailer, a retailer that would put it on the shelf in the pharmacy. So the price markup, you can imagine sometimes 60%. The same story with Amazon. So manufacturer cannot sell from Amazon own page, not having the retail license. Therefore, we would sell to Amazon. Yeah. Amazon would have so much less expenses than the other offline channel. Yeah. So Amazon would naturally sell sometimes by 30% cheaper than the price for the same product in the pharmacy. Yeah. And that would upset a lot of pharmacy partners who cannot reduce the price. Yeah. And they say that customers come to us right in front of the pharmacist would show the Amazon price and would say, my product on Amazon is like 40% cheaper than you sell. Yeah. And that automatically breaks a good relationship with big customers. How do you recommend to address it based on your idea that actually there is a fundamental problem on the side of the manufacturer rather than on e-commerce?
That's a really good question. The example I had of Sivo, they have exactly the same problem where they are absolutely reliant on their veterinary partners to sell product, but they're losing all of their share to Amazon. How would I approach it? Well, I don't know enough details, to be quite honest, to give and I don't want to give a solution. However, I think there are multiple ways to approach this, and one of which is to understand the process of how product is getting to Amazon and who owns which account, because you can have lots of different accounts and relationships with Amazon. You can also have different contracts in place with the suppliers going to Amazon, but at the end of the day, Amazon takes its pricing from somewhere. So there are steps before Amazon that need to be understood and addressed, often contractually to do with your partners, that would need to be explored at the same time. Because as you say, Amazon's at the point of a shopper mission where they want it right now. They're going to meet that demand better than your offline partner. So I recognize the challenge. I just think the solution it's in the detail. Sorry.
I think I'm not trying to pitch for Nicholas Hall, but I think if you're looking for an architecture that helps you clean some of that up, I think we could help you. So there are companies who are around to clean up that mess.
Yeah.
And it's not often caused by the company, it's caused by third-party sellers and wherever the product flow is coming from.
And that's what we do, get stuck into the detail to help work out what's going on. But there are ways of doing it. And just to reassure, everyone's facing the same problem. Yeah. Pleasure.
Great. Any other questions? Okay, Ellie, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, everyone.
All right, thank you for your attention. There's three great presenters and three great presentations. We're now going to take a coffee break. We'll see you back here about 11:30. Thank you.
Ah, t'as pas fait Inter.
There's the begin.
I will read this for
I think whatever you want. I mean, if you want to sit there, that's fine. Yeah. Welcome back, everybody. If you could take your seats for our final session, please. Silence descends. Wow. Okay, we're into the home straight now. And to finish off the conference, we have a really interesting panel discussion with 4 industry leaders. We start, the way this is going to work is that each of our panelists will have about 5 to 10 minutes of discussion, of presentation, and then once all 4 of our panelists have spoken, then Nicholas will come up and facilitate a discussion across the 4 of them. So our panelists need very little introduction, but we will start with Ivan van der Vogel, who is the founder of the Damier Group, founder of Omega Pharma, Alpha Pharma, Vermedia Pharma, an industry legend, and is currently the executive chairman of Vision Healthcare, Consumer Health, and also the chairman of Cooper Consumer Health. A very busy man, so please welcome to the stage, Ivan.
Yeah, thank you for the introduction, and thank you, Nicholas and team, for this amazing conference. So I only have 5 minutes, so I have 16 slides. So I will be brief, as brief as possible, let's say. So my presentation is about bridging OTC and VMS to deliver white space innovation. So consumers, meaning of being healthy, is fundamentally evolved from not being sick, but it's also mental well-being, having a healthy immune system, and so on and so on. So it's more a holistic approach that consumers are looking at. So consumers are more and more confident that they manage their own health for the better. So 52% thinks that they will be healthier in the coming 5 years. So, and they are taking a more and more holistic approach to health and longevity. And I rather speak about lifespan instead of, about health span instead of lifespan. So we want to live longer, but we want to live healthier. So prevention and longevity health solutions are key strategic growth areas for us. And you see that we have a real momentum of growth of whatever has to do with holistic health and lifelong health solutions. So I think that credibility and trust in our products is very important for the consumer. So I think that there is a great crossover opportunity for OTC, and OTC, I mean medicated OTC and health supplements. So people want effective health solutions to stay healthy, but they don't want to be lifelong medicated. So we have a couple of examples. The trend of the OTC brands going natural, for example, Voltaren Natural, Z-Krill Natura. So that means that they go the less medicated way. And on the other side, we have health supplements that are becoming more and more relevant, health solutions beyond prevention. So the next gen, we think that the next gen nutraceuticals will replicate through medicinal mode of action with clinical backed evidence. And we saw a couple of examples here with Probi, with the Pepti presentation that we just had. Simprove is also another example. And then we have a couple of GLP-1 probiotics coming up very fast to the market. So I think that there's a real momentum for this. So I'm just going to read this one. It's a long one. Transforming nutraceuticals into validated clinical efficacy by leveraging science-based biological interaction, to replicate medicinal mode of action for real health span outcomes. Represent a true white space opportunity for consumer healthcare and wellness. So I think there's an opportunity there. So I think that trust and confidence in our products for the consumers are very, very, very important, and that we need knowledge in the market, knowledge with HCPs, key opinion leaders, to trickle this knowledge down to the consumer. Okay, thank you. Voilà.
Thank you, Ivan. As I said, there will be opportunities for questions, probably as part of the facilitated discussion, but for now, thank you, Ivan. Our next panelist who will come up and just address us briefly is Benoit Brochet, who is the founder and CEO of Botani Brands. Benoit is an entrepreneur and a business leader with decades, well, 2 decades, nearly 3 decades of experience in the consumer healthcare sector. And Benoit brings a wealth of knowledge and insights to the consumer healthcare sector. So welcome to the stage, Benoit.
So hello everyone. The first challenge is to keep 5 minutes. I've got a few slides. So first of all, thanks Nicolas and the great team for this wonderful conference. So first of all, let's start by acknowledging one core truth. In today's marketplace, trust is everything, as we have seen several times during this conference, especially when it comes to natural products. We know consumers want real confidence in what they buy. This means transparency at every step, from the field to final product. As you can see, a few years ago, a very well-known influencer said that natural products were not a trend anymore, but it became a full category. So it's more and more true. As we can see, the natural supplement industry has evolved into a dominant market force, now valued at 13.7 billion in Europe. In fact, naturality now accounts for nearly 80% of consumer purchasing decisions in France. This growth isn't not just a trend, it's here to stay. But with this growth comes greater consumer expectation for authenticity and trust. Who we are at Botany Brands? We are the partners innovating in natural self-care, driving new product development, and offering ready-to-market solutions. We're committed to supporting your brand's journey from concept to creation. To sustain growth, trust is everything. Consumers and pharmacists don't just want promises. They demand proof. And trust isn't a given. It's earned, one clear step at a time. But there is a challenge today. Consumers are lost in a fog of endless options. With too many lookalike products and overwhelming claims, it's hard for them to find clarity. This confusion leads to skepticism and ultimately mistrust. Let's talk about a critical issue, quality. Adulteration of ingredients, and especially botanicals, is rampant. A recent study made by Stefan Gaffner from the American Botanical Council is focusing on two things, adulteration and dilution. Take ginkgo biloba, where nearly 83% of extract are adulterated, as it has been shown by a review of 28 studies conducted after 2020. This damages efficacy and, more important, erodes trust. Consumer wants authenticity, not dilution, and cheap substitutes. The second thing he showed with his study, you will see on the diagram on the left of the screen, that at least half of the extract they've analyzed on a panel of more than 1,000 extracts they found on the market were totally diluted. Even better, as you can see on the green part, 14% of the extract were not the right plant. This is reality. It has just been published a few months ago. So what do we do with that? From uncertainty to clarity. Consumers want to know exactly what's in their supplement. They want clarity. This is where radical transparency comes in. If we demystify product, show the truth, and deliver transparency, we start to build that trust. So how do we build trust? It begins with clarity. Consumers need clear ingredients, standardized actives, and simple, straightforward benefits. No jargon, as Nicolas just said before. No hidden info, just transparency. The next step is proof. Rigorous quality tests and transparent controls at every stage are essential. This is why Botany Plus has been created a few months ago only, and that's a certification that shows consumer your commitment to quality. And this label is now available for your products in all Europe and very soon for the rest of the world. And you can see two first products on the left that has already this label to prove the quality of their ingredients. The idea is really to open the kitchen. Transparency is like a baker showing his kitchen. Let consumers see inside. It's not complicated. It shows them where ingredients come from, how products are made, and how they are packaged. Openness builds trust. Also, see the limits. Be honest with your consumers. Transparency also means honesty. Don't shy away from disclosing contraindication or limit of use, or even potential side effects. This builds credibility and reduces skepticism. In today's world, being accessible is crucial, as we have seen many times during this conference. Connect directly with consumers through social media, answer their questions, and provide extra information. A transparent brand is a trusted brand. Storytelling builds loyalty, but trust is not just built on products. Trust is about stories. Share your journey, talk about your people, your passion, and create a deeper emotional connection. People trust stories, not just products. Finally, let's talk about unlocking your brand's potential. Trust is not a given, it is earned. It is built through traceability, scientific validation, and transparency. This formula will help you demystify supplement and earn your consumers' trust. In conclusion, if we prioritize clarity, proof, and transparency, we can unlock the full potential of our brands. And in doing so, we'll build a foundation of trust that propels sustainable growth. Thank you.
Falling over, good heavens. Thank you, Benoit. Very interesting. Our next panelist is Jean-François Couvet, who had a long and successful career in the corporate world with companies like L'Oréal, Novartis, GSK, Haleon, and is now a consultant and a senior associate at Exponential. His focus is on helping clients build stronger brands and enhance their team's capabilities, and he strongly believes that brands and assets are the most valuable resources any company can possess. So welcome Jean-François to the stage.
Good morning, everybody. So I think from the first day, yesterday, first presentation from Nicolas until my friend JC's, yes, I kept it, presentation, you know, aging was definitely a key word. And there's a very good reason for that, because silver, the silver gen, is really the future of the world and for the industry. And basically, we can all turn silver into gold as key CHC players, but there is a need for change. We need to look at this target audience with different eyes, different angles, because it's not just about numbers, 60 plus, it's not about social demographic, but it's really about understanding what it means as you enter this new phase of life. So silver is definitely the future, and that's a fact. When you look at it, 30% of the population will be over 65 by 2050, which is just tomorrow. And of course, that brings, you know, extremely severe challenges for the countries we operate in. For the country P&L, it means, you know, less revenue and more cost, so that's going to be a different, difficult equation for the future. As we learned it yesterday, I mean, we are living longer, but we don't have a healthy life longer than that. And I was really, you know, interested by the number mentioned yesterday by Jennifer. You know, especially for women, they will spend 25 more time in ill health than men, you know, so definitely a big challenge. And we saw it yesterday from Nicolas' presentation. It's more and more difficult to access doctors, but also pharmacists. We learned yesterday 10% less pharmacies in France, for example, same in the UK in the past year. So access to health will become more and more challenging. But I come from Asia. I spent the last 22 years in Asia, and what we learn in Asia, behind every challenge, there are many opportunities. And I think, you know, the biggest opportunity we all have is really people spending more time and interest in self-care. So that's a fact. 80% of the seniors are actively seeking preventive healthcare. So we move from curation to prevention, and that, of course, means, you know, buying more supplements products, but also spending more time taking care of themselves when it comes to fitness, and investing in technology. I think that's also a big game changer when it comes to all the tech equipment that allows you to have better care of yourself. And that's critical because as you get older, and you know, for the people over 65, 40% of them are also suffering from chronic diseases. And if you have, for example, suffering from diabetes, you will spend more, 35% more on OTC products. So living longer is great, but what matters the most is really healthy aging. So a great opportunity for all of us as an industry. Just to quote one number, you will see on the senior nutrition market will reach 25 billion, so significant value for this category. But that's not just about nutrition. You will see the same trend and growth opportunities in pain, in eye health, or heart category. So that's all across basically the categories we worked in. I think the big change is also coming from digital. That's the game changer because it allows us to have a personalized approach and communication strategies to the seniors. Again, it used to be only 2% of the 65 plus on social media some 15 years ago. It's now minimum 35, and it's improving by the day. So seniors, 65 plus, to use demographics are definitely on digital. And it's a great opportunity for all of us. But again, it requires changing our lenses and not just believing on traditional media, but connecting with them on digital platforms. And of course, as a Spider-Man would say, with great power for the industry comes a great responsibility, and we all have a role to play. We saw it yesterday from the Helion example on promoting self-care, access to health literacy, and that's really something we need to take on board together as an industry to really provide better access to everyday healthcare. And just to conclude on on our approach to this wonderful target audience, how to win with silvers. I think it starts by looking at them with different eyes, as I said, so not just demographics. I attended the workshop from Dave and Trevor on Wednesday, and I love the way he was presenting the life stages. And basically, for people reaching 60 plus, they call it the new life builders, because they're just opening a new era in their life. They have 30 years or plus of life ahead of them, and they don't want to play it like their parents or grandparents played it. So they are really open to change. They want to try new things, are super active, and we need to understand that as a marketers. So it starts by being more senior-centric, understanding the way they live, the way they shop, and what matters to them. By spending time, home visit, consumers insight, that's really critical. And when you think about it, when I started as a marketer, I was 25, and I was developing products for people 40, 45 years. There was only 20 years gap between me and my consumers. Now, if you are 25, you develop products for people over 60, 70, the gap is getting 2 times bigger. That's 40 or 50 years of difference. So that brings an extra challenge for the young generation of marketers, and they need to spend time understanding the seniors. Be senior-friendly. We had a wonderful example yesterday from Tamara on Voltaren with the easy open cap. Again, I had many examples in my previous jobs. For example, the child-resistant packaging. Great to protect safety for children, but when you give it to people over 60, they just cannot open it. So we need to make sure what we do is relevant for the consumers. Strong and relevant claims. We don't do enough research and clinical studies for people over 65. And again, yesterday we mentioned a great example on Centrum Silver with the Cogno study and improving the cognitive function. That talks to seniors, and no wonder the numbers are coming. So change the digital mindset as well. A good practice. As a marketer, we are used to the 5-second digital asset. Again, that does not make sense for seniors because they have time, and they're very happy to spend 30 minutes, 40 minutes if the content is relevant and informative for them. So we really need to change our digital approach to senior to really win in the marketplace. And of course, we need to work not just as a manufacturer, but in partnership with all the HCPs, because that's an ecosystem we need to build together to really promote access to health for the people we serve. So we saw the example yesterday from Caltrate. Take Care of Bone campaign, that's not something the brand alone should do. It should be done in partnership with pharmacists and HCPs, okay? So that for me, just food for thought. They are a fantastic, business opportunity, but we need to look at this, target audience with new eyes and really adopt a new go-to-market. Thank you very much.
And our final panelist is Pascal Hudea, who's had a very accomplished career at companies like P&G and Henkel, has held numerous supervisory and executive level positions, and is currently chairman of the board at Inula and serves as a board director at HB Aesthetics, and is also a senior advisor at A.T. Kearney. And in amongst all of that, he is also the current CEO of Laboratoire Boiron. So welcome, Pascal.
Hello, nice to meet you, and thanks a lot to Nicolas for the invitation. just discovered that we started in the same company, not exactly at the same year. I don't have slides because I was not supposed to be on the panel, so I received from the team 4 questions. So I'm going to try to basically share my perspective, having worked in beauty, in wellness, and in health. The first question was, what are the key barriers we need to address in CHC in terms of identifying growth opportunities? And I thought about 3. First of all, fragmentation of care, lack of coordination, and treating only the symptoms and not treating the people in an holistic way. That drives you to basically what I call integrative health. I really love what was presented. Integrative health is about, of course, treating the symptom, especially when you have a bacterial sore throat, where only antibiotics can work. But when you take antibiotics, you basically destroy the microbiome of your stomach, and then it burns. So how do you take care of the person in his integrity and well-being? That's the first thing. Second key barrier for me is regulatory and compliance, especially when you have a global company. Boiron is an $500 million company in 50 countries. You have so many different regulations. Even in my French home country, you're probably bored with a French accent. I'm the first French-speaking person now. But we are working on medical cannabis in France. Would you believe that out of 27 countries in Europe, 24 have voted medical cannabis? We are one of the last, because of the change of politicians. And we are in France one of the leaders in CBD, which is cosmetic, and we are pushing as a laboratory how to basically help patients, not consumers, who are basically suffering from intense, pain to the moment that actually morphine is not working anymore. The last barrier that I was thinking about, and I was thinking about it from one of the presentations, what is the opportunity for us in CHC? We need to move from prevention of the signs of aging, which has been there for 30 years, to longevity. Yes, it's not enough. We need to move to reverse aging. That's the next Graal for me. And you think that it's the future? Actually, no. With Nick, we were at the Inokos presentation, where actually a surgeon from Turkey explained to us that taking stem cells from the body, cultivating them and making them younger and re-injecting them actually in your skin is not absorbed and accepted and actually give you back elasticity. So reverse aging is the next Graal. The second question was how brands can adapt to evolving consumer expectation. Not an easy one. And I was thinking, is there any boundaries between beauty, well-being, and health? Almost not anymore, except the artificial one, imposed on us by the regulators. So I really like what was presented from China, because in China, and I'm flying to Hong Kong tonight, we need to apply medical approach to VMS. The Chinese consumer needs actually visuals, explanation, clinical studies in order to buy in, even on social media, because indeed, on WeChat, we can legally talk about that. And I was thinking about it because when we developed CBD by Boiron for France, we applied medical grade research for a cosmetic product. And that enabled us to have something which is good on sleep and pain. Another idea is AI and automation in healthcare. We all know it. AI-powered chatbots, AI-driven diagnostics, decision support tools, automation, that improves actually efficiency and also patient outcome. The third question was strategies for embracing innovations and championing healthcare literacy to create a competitive edge. Whew. I was thinking about two opposites, the human touch and AI. In my homeopathic world, actually, nothing replaced personalized education of health professionals. Doctors, physicians, pharmacists, nurses, etc. But on the opposite, we are using digital health literacy tools and technology adoption via telehealth, digital health tools education, in order to complement the physical touch. So we are not dehumanizing, actually, wellness. We are basically using both. And last, question that I received, collaborative approaches to foster trust. We talked about confiance, trust, with Jean-François and the team, and build lasting consumer relationship. And I thought that I would finish by a provocative thought. Stop being consumer-centric. Stop being patient-centric. It's high time we are becoming people-centric. Now I'm asking you, Yvonne, do you like to be called a consumer? No. Or a patient? Actually, you know, last week I was with Alain Toledano, that the French people know is one of the best oncologists in France, and we're working on integrative health together, and he was actually on that. The people who are going through deep cancer treatment, they want to be treated not as patients, but as people. So let's stop consumer centricity, patient centricity. Let's start people centricity. Thank you.
So we've heard from all four of our panelists. Now please welcome all four back onto the stage with Nicholas to facilitate a discussion.
No, I'm going to tower over you in a position of dominance. If I sit down, I'll fall asleep. It's the end of a conference. You might say, what's left to discuss? I mean, Pascal, I didn't expect you to answer the questions then. We're supposed to do that now. But anyway, so we can go for an early lunch. No, we can't. What we're going to do now is a classic Q&A, and as you know, if you've attended any of the sessions I've moderated at our conference or the Jeffries conference or at Chipper, I like to be a bit more interactive, and I don't like everyone answering every question. I'll be a bit more selective. But the other thing too is we want to hear your questions and also comments from the floor, and I believe we'll have some roving mics. So let's start with innovation, and I think every one of our panelists, when they introduced themselves, had some reference to innovation, the search for something new. Typically, we think of that as products or delivery systems. Of course, the entire business model should be innovation. The pricing strategy, distribution, geographical expansion, all requires innovation. But let's stick to what is usually meant. So I'm going to ask you a very bland question, but I hope that you'll provide some insights here. We're probably all agreed that the rate of success for new products is very low. I've asked expert audiences like this one in the past, what do you think the success rate is for a new product, plus or minus 25%? Well, if it's more than 25%, it's already a success. But if we said that success would be your target or up to minus 25, how many brands would you say succeed? And the general number that comes through is somewhere between 70 and 90% of new products fail. And we've seen from the information that I presented yesterday that our tracker product, which has measured almost 50,000 new brands, viewed subjectively at the beginning, 74% of those new products are 1 stars, which mean they're actually inferior to brands already in the marketplace. So why is there that high rate of failure? Is it bad research, clinical research and market research? Is it bad marketing? Or is it bad consumers that just don't behave in the right way? So, no particular order. Benno, I'm going to start with you, and I think we have a mic in front of you.
Yeah, innovation is not only providing new things. It has to make sense. We've a lot talked about efficacy. There is also one part of the innovation which is really important is the experience of consumer. there are many, many products that are just boring. And we've seen a study made by Synadiet in France showing that 50% of the food supplements are forgotten in the bathroom or in the kitchen. And after 2 years, we remember, oh, okay, I had this food supplement. What was it? It was so boring to take that we just forgot to take that. So innovation is also part of the pleasure or the sensoriality product will bring. Maybe that's the reason why gummies made a great job in terms of sales. We all know that many of the gummies are not very interesting in terms of sugar profile, for instance, but they are so good. We don't have problem to finish like all French know les fraises tagada, for instance. They are very well-known sweets, and we don't have any problem to finish the boxes. So maybe there is something to be thought about innovation and consumer experience to bring some pleasure in the consumer experience.
So I think what you're saying, Benoit, and I fully agree, is that it's not just the formulation, it's the whole, in a way, the whole sense of what the brand stands for, make it more pleasurable. I mean, it's harder to do that with mainstream consumer products, but of course, VMS lends itself to a lot of those sensorial products.
Yeah, exactly. And one industry has already very much performed in that way is cosmetic. We all know that even in taking this very expensive cream, we will not have the same face as the lady or the man on the advertising, at least, not exactly the same. But we really have pleasure to open the box, smells good, and very pleasant to put in the skin. So it's part of the experience, even if it's not working as much as we could think it works, but it's really pleasant. And cosmetic, I think, can also bring us some insight with regard to the pleasure of consumption.
Let's park that thought for the simple reason that my next question is going to be comparing us with the cosmetics and toiletries industry. So thank you for bringing it up. Jeff, what's your view on the original question on why we have the failure rate?
Yes, on innovation, I will join you. It's all about the perceived value, so it has to answer a real consumer need, and sometimes, we are just obsessed by molecule science behind it, or ideas born in a marketing office, but disconnected from the consumer reality. So perceived value will be definitely one. I join you, the consumer experience. We'll talk about cosmetic, but definitely when I was in the cosmetic industry, we were spending more time on textures, so the sensoriality, than just on the technology itself or the advertising benefits. So the consumer experience at the first point of contact with the products really makes a big difference. And last thing I would say, too many innovations kill innovations. I mean, sometimes we believe that to build a 5-year plan, we need to launch new products every year. But at the end of the day, let's look at the shelves, and we have so many new products. You don't give credit to the labs and all that, and we are launching way too many products. And it's much better to slow down, make some choices, and go to the market with really relevant/disruptive innovation.
Don't go away. If we think about the benefit ladder, which in our joint venture with Exponential, which you're an associate, we talk a lot about the benefits ladder. I mean, it's hard enough to get manufacturers to think in terms of trading up from features to benefits, but then they get stuck on functional benefits and don't go to emotional benefits. Or am I oversimplifying? Is everybody now thinking about stressing emotional benefits?
I think not enough, Nicolas, definitely. And I can give you an example from my previous company, Helion, where we work on dentures, denture wearers. And all the past, the advertising was all about functional, the way you apply it. And we switched the communication to emotional, because if you suffer from teeth loss and wear denture, your life will change forever. And by just switching to the emotional context and the fact that thanks to the products you can enjoy the food with your families and relatives, I mean, we saw a wonderful uplift in terms of sales. So not enough is the answer. We need to move more and more to the emotional side of in communication.
Thank you. Pascal, you clutch that microphone. You're ready to go. I know you obviously have a very strong point of view on this.
I was first, I'm fully aligned with what they were saying. I bind product development in my company when I took over in September. because in our industry, innovation is simplified to product development. Even the name of the department is product development. In R&D, in marketing, in industry and production. Innovation is product, service, experience. And if I think about, homeopathy, for instance, one of the biggest innovation has been to give access to the homeopathic medicine in rehabilitation sites post-cancer after breast reduction, for instance. It's just to be there with other people. So sometimes it's the experience that becomes the innovation. But in our, I'm 55 years old, P&G-trained mind, innovation is product development. So I would challenge that, point number one. Point number two, I would totally agree with Jean-François that there is a difference between point of difference, point of parity, and point of accepted inferiority. Our industry works on incrementality, points of parity, which is negating competitive advantage. Oh, Allianz do that. Oh, Cooper do that. Oh, I'm going to launch. Or I do a line extension. It brings nothing for the people. What is the disruptive idea that can be functional benefit or emotional benefit, like you said, Nicolas, that's going to bring the world forward? We are in health and wellness, and that's what we should work against.
Thank you. Yes, Ivan.
Well, when we speak about innovation, I think there's a really big barrier, and that's, imagine that an OTC company discovers a new molecule. So is it a drug? Is it a novel food? Is it a food supplement? So, and if it's a drug, then you have to go to Rx. So we are dependent on the potential switch possibilities in the future for any new molecule. So I think that's a very, very big barrier. So that's my opinion, one of the opinions of about innovation.
Absolutely, thank you, thank you. Yeah, there have been a couple of instances of direct-to-consumer for a new molecule not going the RX route. They're very rare. I think Abreva from Haleon in the US was a new molecule that went straight to OTC. And Mucinex.
That's really an exception.
When they applied for when the original owners of Mucinex, not Reckitt, when they applied to go RX for their long-acting product, the FDA said, no, this should go straight OTC. It's rare that the FDA helps you like that, but they did, and it became the mega brand it is now. So thank you. Does anyone in the audience have any short comments on that before? Yeah, Torsten, thank you. We'll bring you a microphone. Because although we have experts here, we also have experts in the room, and I'm interested in hearing in your point of view.
Yeah, I think consumer insights can also drive innovation. That is not new product development. One thing I noticed yesterday when Jennifer Cooper showed the Nurofen We Feel Your Pain campaign, I thought, this is great. It's just ibuprofen. It's just marketing. They didn't change the molecule or anything. They ran a couple of studies, and of course, ibuprofen will work in pain, also in women. But they have identified a consumer segment that feels underserved, and they said, we will serve your needs. And that works. That is, to me, innovation without really changing anything.
I think that's so right, and if I can give you an old example, but I think it's very relevant. When Alka-Seltzer, famous brand, very well known in the West, was prepared for launch in Japan, it was a huge failure. And it turned out later that when you put the tablets in the water and it dissolves, it leaves a sort of sediment on the surface, which in the West we don't take any notice of. The Japanese thought that was dirty, they didn't want it in their body. And I ran that case study several times and said, what a pity they didn't do consumer research to find that out. And then after a few times, a person from Japan came up and said, we did do the consumer research, and that's exactly what was found, and the management chose to override it. They thought they could deal with that in advertising, and they couldn't. So no disrespect to the Bayer company all those years, but this is so often the case that we either don't have the consumer insights, or we do, but we choose to ignore them. Any other comments from the floor? Oh, lots of hands. Alexander.
Yeah, could be another problem of the unsuccess of this new launch is that access to consumers wasn't achieved. If quoting you 75,000 new launches, I doubt that there was so much space in the pharmacy shelf for all of them. So could it be one of the reasons of the unsuccess?
Alexander, I think you're right. It is 50,000. Give us a few more years, we'll get to 75,000. But the point is a very good point. And I do think that as an industry, we certainly, you know, if you don't succeed with one, try again and keep going until you succeed. And it's a shrinking opportunity. I think the expression was used, demystify. I think we mystify consumers, that we make it very complex for them. We know confused consumers don't buy. And our line extensions with longer and longer ranges, our complications, our mixture of ingredients and benefits, consumer goes away very confused. And one of our presenters used a word that's very commonly used, which is disruption. This industry needs the opposite of disruption. If there is such a word as ruption, we need it. We need not to disrupt. We need consumers to become more aware of how our products work, one with the other. We need to give them fewer, better choices. Anyway, I'm not the panelist here. I'm talking too much. There was a hand went up at the back. Somebody wanted to say something.
Thank you. Actually, I think that we are missing one important angle while discussing about this consumer people journey. It is mostly relevant with the last session, being people-oriented. We are missing that. We are talking about one person's life, 24 hours. And one person should use magnesium, vitamin D, vitamin C, protein supplement, all of them. And of course, we are addressing one need of one person, but it is add up. In the end, there is a survey in PubMed. It requires almost 90 minutes for a person to complete all these self-healthcare needs throughout the day, including physical activity, etc. And it is a big competition with the time nowadays. I think this is the main concern. And we are still not there as marketeers to understand that there is one thing that we cannot change. A day is still 24 hours. We have responsibilities on top, kids and work, life balance, etc. So if you just look at the picture from the vitamin supplement point, yes, they know that they need it, but they don't have time to focus on all these supplements in one day. I think that's why we need high-density solutions. One doesn't fit all, but at the other hand, we also need simple solutions which could meet different needs with one solution. So this is my perspective.
And I'm going to pick on that point and address a slightly different question to the audience. We've talked a lot in the last few years about personalized medicine, particularly in the VMS space. Is there a reality? Can we do that? Ivan, you operate in this market, as we all do. What do you think?
Yeah, but I think so, but the success is very limited, I have to say. So we tried that with Vision Healthcare also. I visited a laboratory in Austria one day, and then he took some how do you say it, blood and then he analyzed the genes and so on and so on, and then he made a special combination with pellets and so on, a little bit of magnesium, a little bit of vitamin B, and so on and so on and so on. But the commercial success was really limited. So it's true what the lady says, but the commercial success until now has not been unlocked, I would say.
Because one of the most successful brands, and it was referred to several times today, was Centrum. And I mean, Centrum's message was, complete from A to Z, from A to Z. Yeah. You didn't need to buy 3. Here was a product that could do everything. Now, that was a very believable concept when that brand came into the market in the 1970s, and it's worldwide. Well, if you discount the Amway brands, it's the biggest vitamin product in the world. Any comments from the world of homeopathy?
Homeopathy, I mean, the concept of homeopathy is ultra personalization to the individual. So, you have an issue, can be health issue, can be well-being issue, and then you have somebody who analyzes it and gives you, something very specific, which is you need those exactly like VMS. So, I would say that ultra personalization, which was very hip in 2010, 2015, especially at CES with connected device, etc., is dead. I was the CEO of Schwarzkopf at Henkel at that time. We were doing exactly that, giving the hair of people, analyzing the DNA, and then constructing, you know, a full line of hair treatment from shampoo, treatment, coloration, etc., making sure the scalp was protected, etc. It failed, like Yvan was saying. And Boiron, before I came, bought Abi, which is ultra personalization in skincare. And after 1 year, they discovered that it doesn't work anymore. So there is an evolution of this simple concept that we need to grasp as an industry, and I don't have the solution yet.
Let me just throw in an anecdote here, and I know several others want to come in, that we're great believers in the whole area of food intolerance. And it starts with taking a diagnostic test that says what you are allergic or reactive to. And a friend of mine took the test and it said he was reactive to everything, stop eating. So I think there are such limitations when we personalize medicines. Do you have a view on this, Jeff?
Yeah, so same, you know, I will join you. I don't have examples in mind of real successes of personalization because definitely we can't get the scalability. I think for me, I will talk about personal advice. You know, I think that's the way we should all work together because at the end of the day, you know, if we do the good job in terms of training of the pharmacist or, you know, in digital, we can really give personal advice. And I was thinking about hairdressers. You know, hairdressers, every hair is different, but yet if I go to the hairdresser of my wife rather than me, the hairdresser will give the proper advice, basically, and recommend the right product. So this, you know, this personal advice will, for me, will make a key difference.
Absolutely. Benoit, who I think did go to the hairdresser.
Yes, sometimes we can have some. It can be a very intelligent product, very intelligent with a lot of science. But the real question is, to what extent consumer will understand. This is the first thing. And we, in this room, we are most oriented into pharmaceutical product, or we develop some product to target some disease. If we take the example of the big wave of collagen product, how can I feel that I need some collagen? What is inside of collagen? It's a huge wave because it's not linked to a disease. It's not linked to something I feel when I'm sick. I just need to be more what? More beautiful, more wealthy. So I think beside the fact that it can be very intelligent, it has also to be simply understood by consumer and decoded as a need or a wish.
Keep it simple.
Yes, exactly.
Keep it simple, isn't that wonderful? Now, before the lady from Adamed spoke, there was a hand up in front. Do you still have a point, whoever put the hand up? Yes, please, take the microphone across.
Hello, I have a point regarding actually both topics because I think they join about innovation and personalization. More and more people expect targeted answers, but you cannot develop 50 products for different target group and ages. But one thing that digital allows is to have targeted communication. And with one product, more and more your challenge is to use digital and not television, and you can find your precise target. I give you a cosmetics example. Stains on the skin, it's a very relevant need. If you do communication for everybody, nobody will feel really it's for me. You need to talk to the teenagers who have acne marks. You need to talk to the pregnant women who got the stains during the pregnancy, and then the aging people who get age spots. There's 3 different communications, and via digital, you can exactly target these people with different messages, but it's one single product. I think that answers a bit both innovation challenge and also this personalization need.
Absolutely, and in fact, you've brought us on to what will be our third topic if we get that far, which is communications and how my subjective view is we're not doing a great job. All right, let's move on, unless anyone wants to start a new round of questions. We've got. Is this a new line of questioning?
No, it wasn't. I was just wondering how you saw the Zoe app, which is very prevalent in the UK, which is all about personalisation, linking into that bigger conversation, because it has been taken off in the UK and it is taking samples and tracking.
Anyone have a view on the Zoe app? I didn't understand. No, we're behind the times here, so sorry about that. You probably know more than we do.
Oh, right, okay.
All right, let's move on. Several of you have mentioned, and from the audience, you've talked about cosmetics, and here's a simple question. Why can the cosmetics and toiletries market, and I'm not just talking about the high end of cosmetics, how come they can get premium prices and we can't in our industry? Are you getting premium prices for mainstream OTCs?
But mainstream, no. VMS, yes.
VMS,
but,
yes.
yes, but not.
But that's,
yeah,
I think,
that's
in
true.
a sense,
That's
emotionally, that's closer to
yeah, well,
cosmetics.
perhaps because we don't have new molecules to sell also, which were better than before. And so the RX, what I just told about the barrier. But if something works much better than before, then you will be able to buy to sell it at a higher price, and consumer will pay for that also. It's all about trust and how they perceive the product and the mode of action actually. So if something works, I want to pay triple or more.
But isn't there in the cosmetics particularly market, and I ran the Olay brand for some years, isn't there, because of the strong image and ability to carry a higher price, and we don't get that, but maybe in VMS, but in mainstream OTC, I don't think we get that.
Yeah, but the way you sell cosmetics is different than consumer healthcare. We're still talking healthcare. It's consumer healthcare, yes, but healthcare is still a component of the consumer healthcare. So it's different, I think.
Okay. If I may build on that, I worked on Olay like you, and then I work on Bioderma, and then on Laura Mercier brand in New York. The point is that skincare goes from, mass to masstige to premium to super premium to luxury. We don't. Our portfolio of pricing is pretty flat versus the skincare industry. Point number one. Point number two, the way they sell, they go to market, goes from a mass channel to their own luxury store. We don't. Okay? So it's difficult for me to compare the two. And third, I would argue that dermocosmetics in skincare is different from skincare. What is the equivalent of dermocosmetics for us? Dermocosmetic is medical skincare. La Roche-Posay, Bioderma, Aven, etc. We are already medical in a way with VMS and CHC, like Yvan was saying. So it's difficult for us to say we have the equivalent of dermocosmetic and then we can charge a premium. What is the strategy? So again, it's not an easy one for me.
No, I think, look, I fully agree with that, but what we see in the market in these times of economic recession is that famous brands, not sold at famous prices in consumer health, are being challenged by a consumer who wants good value products. They know the molecules are very similar, but they want to pay less. So they go to a generic, or more likely they go to a store brand. So a lot of manufacturers are faced with working harder, putting more money into marketing to support a price which is not lavish. And I wonder if there's a way out of that. Maybe the answer is that no way out of that. Anyone have any ways of cheering me up on that point?
Yeah, there is something that is also interesting is the appearance of the products. We have done a study with regard to pastille. Okay, so you've got some products that are sold between 5 and 7 euro when they are in the very simple plastic box. You take the same product, you change, you have a beautiful pot, like more or less a cosmetic one, and the same product or more or less the same formulation, price is multiplied by 2 or 3 because you come from a world which is like OTC, that is a world of pleasure, of beauty, of something that has a real value for consumer. So sometimes just simple tricks as the choice of the box or the finishing, the look of the product will bring some value in the consumer experience and in the consumer mind of what is the price of the product.
Yeah, but that's true for VMS, but less true for OTC, where efficacy is still the main driver, of course, for the consumer to buy your product. So,
no, definitely both are important.
All right. Look, the first topic we talked about was, we had some very decisive views. I'm not worried by the fact that we don't have decisive views. I think it's an area for more study. But pricing, I've never known in all my years in this industry pricing be such a sensitive topic as it is at the moment. It's a function of two things. One is the economic recession, but also the power of chains, who somehow equate growth opportunities with lowering price. Now, if you look at Boots, Boots proves in the UK that you can have a brand at this price. Boots always puts its private label not a huge way below in pricing, and then when they put in the great products, generic products, which are sold at like 1/5 of the price of the market leader, these brands don't do well. I had the same when we advised Nepstar, when it was the biggest drugstore chain in China. They put in the famous brand with advertising here, their own private label 20% below, and they put in the bargain basement products, and consumers did not buy the bargain basement products because there's trust. And consumers think trust doesn't come at a low price. Now, that's not right, but that's what consumers think. So despite what I said about brands being challenged by lower priced products, I'm actually a big advocate of finding a way through improving the formulation, adding benefits, making it look better, all of these things, and trying to get a bigger price point than we're currently at the moment. I think we accept it. I think we accept average or low pricing as just a fact of life and move on.
And there is also one thing, as we work with many companies, we see some habits. Some companies think their product cannot be sold at more than €6. You just switch to another company, you arrive and you talk with them and they say, our products, they are not less than 20, 25. Why? They are kind of same formulation. They are also an habit of companies. No, we for sure, we could not sell at a higher price. But maybe there is a topic on thinking what is the consumer value perception, rather than continuing what we have always done with our prices.
Yeah, I think we will all agree health matters more than beauty. So we should have advertising saying, I choose X because I'm worth it, and you don't see that in health, and I was reflecting on it. I think it's, of course, but the concept of perceived value and indulgence, and I think it's maybe for me because we're focusing so much on problem solution, and not prevention, like delays the signs of aging and all that. So I will spend less because, I just want something that works today. Yeah. But if we bring stories around, if I do it today and on a daily basis, I will have a better impact for my health in the future. That could potentially help us raise the average price.
I have a nice example. We had a product called Valdisper, which is a valerian extract in Portugal, and it was RX. So we decided to switch it and to double the price, and the volume didn't go down. So we doubled the turnover. Mm-hmm. So, and the price of the RX product was €2, and we had a reimbursement for €0.5. So, but nobody could care less, in fact. So we doubled the price at €4, and we still had the same volumes. So just to see that there is price elasticity, but it's all about efficacy also. So the people needed the product, so they continue to buy the product. So perhaps we should.
I think so, because we saw in Ellie's presentation that mucus extracting machine. Is it called Navigage? Navage. And I remember a presentation at the Ceuta meeting, and I think it's a $100 product or something. It's an expensive product. And there were a number of consumers who would pay that price because of its efficacy when they wouldn't pay $5, or they paid $5 or $10 for a normal decongestant that just didn't work. And I was very impressed, and your friend Ron has the marketing rights in Canada and has done really well with it. So all I'm saying, I think, is that, just don't put your prices up for the sake of it. But if you can justify it in efficacy, or it's just more pleasant to use, or it looks very sexy, we shouldn't, in a sense, run away from that. That's my entire message.
We could add some tariffs.
And we
could tariffs.
Some tariffs. That's going to be done for somebody else, by somebody else, isn't it? Yes, there's a hand up there, patient hand.
Thank you. Does the panel think that actually efficacy can be expressed by the claims, the features and benefits that are on the packaging that help the consumers to understand what that product is doing for them and better explain in comparison with the generics and other private label products what that product's offering? It's a bit of a loaded question, I do appreciate.
Yeah. Well, in my presentation I said that we have to educate also the KOLs and the HCPs, and then it has to trickle down to the consumer. So that I think that is really important. And you have so many new products, especially in VMS, for example, many new active ingredients. And we have to educate, first of all, these professionals, and it has to trickle down to the consumer. And you have to communicate it in a simple way.
Yeah, and I would like to build on that. You are talking about efficacy. The simple math of a turnover is basically penetration, trial, times repurchase rate, times frequency of purchase, times quantity per act of purchase, times price. Easy. Okay? You can get people to try you. But if you don't deliver on the benefit you claimed, or if they cannot feel it in a way, emotionally, psychologically, or functionally, you don't have repurchase. So all your marketing spending, etc., are dead. Now, if you work on RX, okay, symptom, solution, kind of, normally it's easy. OTC, you're blurred. VMS, you need to take for a certain period of time, as it was presented this morning, and the element of trust that was presented before is very important. I live it painfully with homeopathy, with denigration in France. But thank God, it's 5 years ago, now we are back to positive. So efficacy depends really on your product and the posology, I don't know if you say that in English, the way you take the product, you know, over time, for me. So one size doesn't fit all.
Jeff, do you have a comment?
No, my first reaction to your question was we just need to make sure first that the consumers get the efficacy claims right, because if you read our packaging, you know, it's so complex, so they are lost with numbers and all that, so we need to make it clear. And then I will join you on, yeah, it's all about the perceived efficacy for me, you know, do I really see a difference? And that brings a challenge. If you look at calcium category, for example, you know, nobody can tell the difference, so why should I pay more for something, you know, I will not see the concrete benefit until I fall down and break my bone, you know, so that's another challenge for our categories.
Yeah, and when we think about the efficacy, we very fast have in mind clinical studies. Okay, so we want to prove. There is another option which is easier. It's just to ask your consumer and to do some consumer studies. And you can publish your consumer studies on your website. And if a new potential consumer see that there is 80% of consumers satisfied by the product, hey, it has a value on the product. Absolutely. It has a value.
Good chance to raise the price if you've got 80% satisfaction.
Yeah.
Penny, did we answer your questions? Did we miss anything? A satisfied consumer. Did I see a hand? Oh, I see lots of hands. I'm going to... Please speak fast. We've only got about 7 minutes left of our time. So where's the microphone going? Right, go for it.
Luc from Neres. A quick question. We discussed about how packaging should be customer friendly. How about how are they supporting the recommendation from healthcare professionals? Is it something that is integrated in the design of this packaging?
HCP, we see it a lot in the US, you know, most recommended by dentists or opticians or whatever. We don't tend to have that so much in Europe, do we?
I think we can't, because regulatory-wise we can't.
Regulatory issues.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's move on as we've got lots of hands and very few minutes. Well, first down here.
All right, I have one reflection because a lot of you guys have mentioned about holistic treatments to the patient. And I think it is what consumers are looking for, but it's very interesting because our industry is getting more and more segmented. So that's just a reflection that I had while listening to you guys. But the second one is, you guys talked a lot about pricing, and there seems to be a little bit of a debate on the different pricing layers. However, there is a tech industry that is trying to burst their bubble, and it seems like we are not very open to them, and they are not very open to us, but they might be the door to that premium pricing. How do you guys see that blocker that I'm personally seeing in our industry?
Can I just rephrase the question? So are you saying, is e-commerce a way to have premium pricing?
Not necessarily e-commerce. I'm talking about health tech.
Okay.
I would agree to that. innovation, for example, connected device. When I talk about VMS, we had a presenter who was amazing about, these biomarkers, these biohackers in New York. I met a lot of them. You take, your blood every week, and then you look on your app, how is and then you have your bar of VMS, and then every day you take what you want. So you don't need a nutritionist for that. The tech is helping the people to feel better, okay? So that's an example of innovation that is not a product. The product is the same. But actually, you have also things that you put on your skin that is basically doing exactly the same when you don't want to take your blood, etc. Now, conversely, for me, e-commerce will push us. We'll have no choice but to actually accelerate innovation and potentially price for it. The biggest pharmacist in the US is Amazon. Okay? It's not yet in Europe. I tell you, it's going to be. We will have no choice, not because of Trump, thank God, but because of other things. So that's very, very important because we are very conservative as French or Europeans, and we'll have no choice but to be people-centric. And people, when I was in New York, I was having a telehealth consultation with a doctor. Then I was going to Amazon. There is a pharmacist giving me the medicine. In 2 hours, it was at my door. It's unbeatable. Okay, so we need just to project ourselves, not fight it, and be people-centric.
Absolutely. Unless you have revolutionary comments, I'm going to take more from the floor. Okay, yes, down here, please.
Thanks for a great panel, first. When I joined CHC business like 7 years ago, I still remember when my previous CEO, who came from Estée, said, we have to be more like cosmetics, because then we're going to be closer to the people. Then there was a huge discussion around fast-moving consumer healthcare, be more like an FMCG. Then we were discussing, we are still part of science. Our roots are in science. And I think all the discussions lead us to the point where we have to answer who we really are as CHC. Because we always compare ourselves, at the same time food industry saying we're going to sell more functional food and we're going to beat those guys from CHC. We think, oh, we're going to be cream, which costs €2, less than the jar, and we're going to sell dreams. But the reality is that we are close to our patients every day. We are consumer healthcare, and I believe we have to focus on compliance, and that's the thing which will help us to deliver the effect. Yeah, as you mentioned, like compliance is the key here. And we have to be patient, because many years ago we launched many OTC APIs. Honestly, nothing new appears. And we try to boost some small stuff. We are not co-working with regulatory teams. They ban us. At the same time, you have Instagram for sure. I receive every 2 days an offer. You want to launch your own food supplements? We are here to make it for you. Behind the scenes, I see superstars who are selling like Ronaldo food supplements. I think in front of us is a big discussion about how to build trust, how to deliver efficacy, and how to make sure that the solutions we are providing are good for us, are not just, of course, we are here also to make some money, but at the end of the story, we have to make sure we have our mission, and I believe this will also allow us to launch better innovations.
I won't take that as a question, but I think it was a fantastic statement, and the who are we is a very interesting discussion. We're in our final minute, so I'm going to end by asking these 4 eminent panelists very quickly to say, what do you hope for the industry? What's the one thing you'd like to see come in? And you're looking at me very eagerly, Benoit, so I'm going to ask you to start.
Yeah, I think we have a few words to keep in mind. First, there is a safety that has to be important, which is very important for all the products, even for food supplement or very close to food products. Safety is the first thing. Efficacy is also very important to keep in mind. Sensoriality is also something that is growing more and more. We have to take pleasure in taking the products. And please don't forget sustainability.
So, sustainability, is that your hope that it becomes more of an issue in the industry?
Yeah, because we have only one planet. So we have to take care about it. And so it's very important when we take some product, that's all the, from the producer, from the field to the pharmacy.
We have to take care about all the process, makes sense? And especially the young generation, they have that in mind.
Absolutely. Jean-François?
Yeah, I was reflecting on yesterday's competition, the digital campaign, all that we see, and I was telling myself, well, unless I'm mistaken, there was nothing about the senior target, and my expectation would be next year to watch on stage, people who have developed a wonderful, creative, relevant campaign for the senior audience, because I think it's great to work on millennials and all that, but at the end of the day, we can do an impactful job and a creative one also for the new life builders, as Dave would put it.
Thank you very much. Pascal?
Yeah, my hope when you think about consumer healthcare is that we do care. That's not complex, huh? And that we don't only care about shareholder profitability, even though it's important because they fund what we do. And that's why I move into a listed, family-owned, private equity-backed company. Oh my God, I have the three. But I have the freedom to do what I want and to try, humbly but forcefully, to push the needle.
Very good. Last word from Ivan.
Well, I will be very short. Instead of consumer healthcare, it's people healthcare now.
Yes.
For Pascal.
Indeed.
So, yeah, we have to get the people in the middle, and that's where we stand up for every day.
Thank you. In fact, it was such an interesting comment because Dave, who led our workshop on day one, at our conference in Singapore, he made that very same point. He said, let's not talk about consumers. They're people. And I think that's come through. So can we thank our four eminent panelists and ask them to go back into the audience? Thank you so much. And I'm just going to sum up now in 10 minutes before we head to the lunch break. So I've long since given up the attempt to summarize what has been said in these excellent conferences that we run. But on Monday, we'll have a written report in Newsflash, which goes to press on Monday, and the headlines of that will be on LinkedIn, and we'll also, for those of you who might not subscribe to Newsflash, we'll also send you Friday's Newsflash as the last word on this workshop, on this conference. What I am going to do is to say thank you to a lot of people, and the first are the amazing organizers of this conference, by which I do not include myself, and that's Mary Elizabeth and Madge and the team that supported them. And even though they are my people, I'm going to give them a round of applause. And very proudly, I thank my son Jacob, who leads our film unit, and his university buddy Scarlett, who just got married recently, and they've done a fantastic job, hoping not to get in your way as they take the photographs. And thank you, Jacob. Thank you, Scarlett. Speakers, we don't have a meeting without speakers, so we thank the speakers from the bottom of our hearts, and we do say this is not a closed shop. Please volunteer if you'd like to be a speaker next time round. It's because of those volunteers we've put together, or Mary put together, the wonderful agenda that we've had in the past 2 days. Moderators who keep everything well-oiled, Marta, Nina, Ralph, Liz, Pat, and Robert, thank you for keeping us on the road and on time, which I remember when we used to overrun every day by about an hour, but you've instilled discipline. Our sponsors, All Creative, Vomax, Probi, and Catalan, we very much value your support. And the delegates, of course, the almost 200 people who were with us yesterday and today, those who've dialed in. Because we're now digital, we don't flood you with pieces of paper, but there are evaluation forms that will be, I believe, Mary is going to send them to people. It's not a download for that. But please give us your evaluations of the speakers, the topics, the venue, etc. That does help us to take an objective view. When the euphoria dies down, the alcohol from last night wears off, and we can look back on the conference and say, this worked, this could have been better, and your evaluations will help us. So on that, I say we will close this meeting and bid farewell to this group and hope that most of you will join us next year around about this time. And I think we're going to show you a video to tell you where we will be next year. The exact city is still under review. The shortlist is Munich and Berlin, and we've polarized. We're like Republicans and Democrats here, so we've got those who want Berlin and we've got those who want Munich, and we'll be telling you that very shortly. So thank you very much. Let's now go and have lunch, and it's the networking lunch. Thank you.